Good evening, dear listeners. Tonight's featured show is brought to you by the leftovers from the Opie Anthony Show. You've tuned in for the soothing and mellow tones of No Filter Paul and the refreshing and nurturing sounds of his wife, Denise. Along with the suave and sophisticated Big A, this comedy trio makes up the Dysfunctional Podcast. And that program starts now.
Not this, bollocks! You fucking wanker! Play the right one, you twat!
Hi! Wait! Fuck you, Paul. I'm opening the show.
Yeah. Wanna come play? 609-891. 8391. We're live. And waiting for your call. Yeah. Hey, Big A. Tell them where they can watch us.
Yeah, baby. You watch us at dysfunctionalpodcast.com.
What the fuck?
Whoa.
Sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, this is Mama June, and you are listening to the Dysfunctional...
That was me yesterday. I could not speak for anything.
The Dysfunctional Podcast.
Sorry, COVID. Running down the highway from Baltimore to New York the other day, and I'm hearing Paul and Denise. I was in hysterics between exit 4 on the New Jersey Turnpike and exit 11 coming from Baltimore to New York.
Hey, it's your old pal, Dr. Steve, and you're listening to the Dysfunctional Podcast with No Filter Paul and Denise and my old friend Big A.
And I'm on your clip.
We're back.
We're not back from anything. Our first half never happened.
Oh, okay.
Never
So
happened.
before, if anybody was listening, that was just, we were
Nothing.
in the twilight zone.
Let's see if we can hear Tom. Let Tom talk for a second.
Before?
Good, Gage. I see a
What?
Gage.
What?
I don't know what she's talking about.
I don't know. It was a psychic.
Just got here.
It was a psychic premonition that I must have had. I don't know. Maybe I was in a different realm.
That's always possible.
Hello, Ginette. You on the phone?
I'm on it.
All right, Tom. Everybody can hear Ginette.
Yes.
All right.
Yay.
Sorry about that. My computer decided it was going. Well, you could probably tell me what happened to my computer, right?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
No. No, I can't.
All right, Denise. I'm gonna let you take
Well,
over for a minute.
let us first introduce. We have on air with us Ginette Lucas. She is a famous psychic who has worked with many police departments locating missing persons, missing objects. She's helped solve crimes. And tonight we are going to discuss every and anything that she wants to talk about. I don't know, Ginette, what you're allowed to talk about.
What she's allowed to. She's an independent person.
Is it, no. But you know how, like, sometimes there are clauses and stuff like that you're not allowed to disclose or you're not allowed to talk about. You know, I mean, I know the case has gone to trial already. She's written a book and all. I mean, we just don't want to pressure you into saying or talking about something that you're not allowed to talk. That's basically.
I'm good.
Okay.
I can talk about anything. I haven't written a book yet. I'm in the process of writing 3 books, but
nice.
everybody else has written about the Kaylee Anthony case.
Right.
So, my book is not about that particular case. My books are. The good news is I'm sharing my knowledge of how to do what I do. So it's not just a psychic development book. It's more of, I use a protocol just like a good dentist. And I say, follow this process, and it's amazing. It works. And a lot of people think, oh, I can just go do this. Well, that's sort of stupid. You can't bake a cake or the best cake without the best recipe. So that's what I tell people.
Wow. Now, let's give, if you could, you and I had a wonderful talk last week. I was like so intrigued by like what you were saying and how this all came. If you could just like tell the viewers how this all came in your life and how you began or, you know, got to know that you had this ability. If you could share, you know, your experience.
Sure. Well, I'll give you the quick rundown. Basically, my father is Louis Matacia, and in the early 60s, he learned how to do what's called dowsing. It's also called water dowsing or water witching, and people who are farmers use water witching for finding water wells, you know, the creek beds, that kind of thing. And he thought, well, that's really cool, but can it do something else? So he decided, let's try it for finding booby traps and bombs. For example, if you put some typical, not the booby traps and bombs, not real ones, okay, sample ones in your yard. Let's see if we can find them using the dowsing method. Mm-hmm. And he found that it worked. So you could also put gold in your yard and try to find gold that way. And then when you go out in the field to go treasure hunting, you can use the same technique. Anyway, so he took that method to a buddy of his who worked for the CIA, and he said, well, so the buddy Roger goes, let's go talk to my friends or my connections and see if I can set you up with using that method for the Vietnam era for locating booby traps and bombs and tunnelers and that kind of thing. And when they did, eventually what happened was, and every war has this, they have underground tunnels, but I guess we as an American system, we don't normally do tunnels, you know, we do it for subways and things like that. Mm-hmm. And what happened was they were using the dowsing method and they kept saying, dig here, dig here. So basically you ask a bunch of questions and it focuses you to keep asking more specific questions like what's the depth, what's the width, and so forth. And when they started digging, they found a tunnel. And then eventually they got a name called the rat tunnelers, because it would go from dowsing to guys that were willing to go down into the tunnels. And you would find it was not like a little city, but it was like a little city. I mean, it had the ammunition, they had people, they had cooks. I mean, you name it, they had it. Just like the drug lords in the tunnels over from Mexico to America. Same similar scenario. And so then another time when they were using dowsing in Vietnam, my father decided the fork and stick is sort of goofy. Let's try a different method. So he used a metal rod and invented it, and he copywrote it. And it's a L rod. They call them an L rod, and you use the same method, and you can ask a question, and your brain actually vibrates like a pattern, and it's not musical, but it's almost like the L rod will go left for yes or right for no. You set up your own pattern, and the men were walking down the road, and when they did, they were in the center of the road, and they had a weird reaction, just like a metal detector, but it was paper, and it turns out they found a bamboo tube, and when they did, inside the tube was a message, and they would find out where the North Vietnamese would be located. But these are just a couple of samples. So when my dad was doing it, he thought it was really fascinating. He had 5 kids at home, and he goes, I wonder if any of my kids have, you know, an extrasensory perception ability. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying I wasn't his favorite. I was just littler than the other kids.
Right.
And he just, there's no way my youngest would be into this. And so he threw it to all of them, and he would actually take us to his friends to get tested. Mm-hmm. And it was really hilarious because one time when we were at one of his friends' houses who did some government work, we were all sitting there. When I said we, I mean my 2 sisters and I. And we were sitting there, and stupid me, I was getting some things correct, but my 2 sisters were getting them correct all the time, and I couldn't figure it out. And then one of them kicked me in the leg and whispered in my ear, look at his glasses, and you can see the S letters, the X's, the heart, the rainbow.
So they were cheating.
They were cheating, and I'm sitting here using my talent, and I thought,
wow.
Yeah, that's not how this works. But that's my life with my siblings. And
I hear you.
So you know, after around age 7, I had a near-death experience, and it was pretty bizarre. And it told me my whole life was going to change at 27. So years later, at 27, I went into the hospital and basically had a second near-death experience. And stupid me, I wasn't taking care of myself. I basically, my kidneys collapsed because I had like 104 temp. And
God.
you know, I just tell everybody, pay attention to your symptoms.
Yeah.
And it's not that you want a near-death experience. It's a heck of an experience. And so after that, when I had my experience, during the process of the near-death, they told me to come back and find missing people. And I said, okay, is that it?
Now, can you elaborate? Elaborate. I'm sorry. Elaborate. Yeah. You and your button. Can you elaborate on who came to you and told you that your life was going to change?
The first near death, I had two people come into the room. I was in an accident, and when I was 7, and they told me they were wearing a minister type outfit, like a Catholic priest, and they said they were my parents from a previous incarnation, and she was sort of wearing they were wearing the black outfits, and I was in China with them. And I thought, okay, then. And they said, we are your real parents. And so I started calling my parents Louis and Francis because I met my real parents.
Right.
And that was it. After 7, everybody was like, why are you calling them Louis and Francis? I said, they're not my real parents. And, I mean, you have to think how a 7-year-old would think at the time. And there were times my mom just acted like she disowned me. And we're not close, and she kept saying things like, you know, you're Lewis's little, you know, what do you call that, mini-me, you know? And my father's mini-me, and, you know, you just have to do what you got to do, but when somebody comes to you and says, I'm your real parent, what if you were adopted or something? But I couldn't have been because I have an identical twin, so voila. So it was a little weird. But the second near death, I went to them. So I guess it was not spiritual. Some people say, oh, this was spiritual. No, I died. Okay, so what? You know, I went through this long process of going upstairs or the heavens or whatever you want to call it, whatever definition you need. And I went into an area where there were a bunch of people. Even when I first got there, I got to meet people that they said I knew from a previous life. And they said I was definitely either I couldn't understand the woman. She said, I'm your so-and-so. And I knew she was saying something in either Chinese or Japanese. So apparently I've had more than one life in Chinese or Japanese. Ooh. And it was very, you know, fascinating. I remember they showed me a couple things. They showed me that I died at like around age 5 or 6 when I was learning to write. And I was living on the top of a mountain. It was very interesting. They were telling me all these details. And it's funny because I can go someplace, and if I've been there before or had a previous incarnation, I get around like there's nobody's business. And my twin is like, how do you know to do this? I said, I've been here before. I've been here before. I know.
Have you ever had like that deja vu feeling? Like
that's what she means.
Yeah, like I've experienced that a lot. You know, where I've even had like feelings, or like I would see like visions of like a room. Yeah. You know, and pictures on walls and stuff like that, and like then all of a sudden I would be there and I'd be like, wait a second, like I've been here before.
It's repetitive, isn't it?
Yes, you know, and it's like the exact things that were like in detail. And the person that I was like before talking, it was like, all right, this is freaking me out because I have had this experience once before, you know, and yet it's a new day like in this life. So like, and I truly believe that a lot of times too, people who come into your life, you know, are people who have been reincarnated, but they were like you said, they were somebody else in a past life, but somehow or another, like they come back to you, you know, like in your circle.
I think so. I definitely think that you're either taught lessons, avoid this person or go toward this person. I think we're definitely triggered. As you mentioned, you saw artwork in the room, and I think it's trying to trigger you. Hey, don't forget this or don't forget that.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people, deja vu is great. It's the next step after the deja vu. What is so important? And for example, when I find missing objects and that kind of thing, somebody called, for example, the other day to find some stuff from a mobster from the 20s, and I said, why are you going after the money? And they go, because it's money. I said, you don't go after the money, you go after the container the money is in. And they go, what? I said, yeah, that's how I find stuff. And they go, really? I said, really? That's how I find stuff. And they go, that's okay. And I said, you're wasting your time going after the money. Money is in my wallet, your wallet, everybody's wallet. So you're going to cause all these different distractions. When you're in a room and you see all these pictures, you're seeing something
Before you
that's
know
telling
it,
you,
you'll be a
click in your brain,
brand new
it's a
girl.
trigger to say, hey, I've been here before, or I know something's going to happen, but I'm not sure what. So pay attention next time you're out and you get that deja vu. Say to yourself, and what I do is I tell myself, show me a dream so I can see what I need to know, whether it's bad, how to avoid it, whether it's good. Because right now we have so many scary terrorists out there.
Right.
You want to be at the right place at the right time to not get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, some people say, I saved my life by having a dream and staying away, from certain locations, and it's fantastic. But you have to be your own advocate.
Oh, definitely.
And
I've had many instances where I have just gotten like a very bad feeling, and I didn't want to do something. I didn't want to go anywhere, and I just felt extremely uncomfortable. And there was like a time, I don't know if I had told you this when we were talking, there was a time where I remember I had to go, to work. I didn't have a car at the time. My brother had 2 vehicles. I had asked my brother, can I, use one of your vehicles? And he told me, take the Firebird. And I just had the most horrible, uneasy feeling. And I kept saying, no, Ray, I don't want to drive that. Please, can I take the other car? And he's like, no, sorry, Denise, you have to. And surely enough, I'm driving it. And the whole entire time that I was driving, I just felt uneasy. The next thing you know, somebody cut me off. I went and did a 360 head on into traffic, and I steered away and crashed into a guardrail.
Right.
And then everything went cloudy like for a moment. And then, I was able to get out of the car. I had like this big adrenaline rush, and then all of a sudden I like passed out. I got like weak and woozy, but it's like I knew that something was going to happen. I had that horrible feeling, and surely enough, I did. I got into a car accident.
I think it's very difficult to describe, so I'm glad that you noticed it. But if you put it on a Richter scale, your own personal Richter scale of, okay, that was a feeling of a 0 to 5. So if it's going to be a terrorist in New York or New Jersey, the feeling should tell yourself to say it's going to feel like a 10 on the Richter scale of fear factor. And if you teach yourself that, you'll be able to stay away from problematic situations. Yeah.
Okay.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I usually have always because that has happened to me. And like I said, when we were talking, I have seen ghosts. I have had, I've heard voices, and I'm not talking like crazy, like, oh, you're hearing voices and stuff like that. Like I have actually heard either a conversation, and it just pops up into my head, and it's almost like I'm talking in my head, but it's like this conversation that is going on. And believe it or not, some of these things have actually then taken place. Same conversation that I heard in my head. Oh my God, I thought of this, So I've had a lot of weird things happen to me, and I've been told in the past from other people who are psychic or whatever, saying that, you definitely have a gift. I remember I had a near death experience. I ruptured my spleen when I was 4. I could remember everything, everything. People in white coats all around me, this big round circular light over me, just, I don't know, and some people, like, they say to me, like, how do you remember these things? I don't know. I just remember, you know?
I think it's more emphatic when you have a near-death experience because I've met some people who can't remember a thing. I've met other people who get extensive detail or remember or have a recall that's amazing. I just met a guy the other day who said he was 7, and that's when he had his near-death, and he said he was in like a time warp or dimension, and he was riding in somebody else's pickup truck with his other father. And I said, wow, that's really cool. And he said, yeah, but I know I was with my other father. And I said, well, maybe what happened was you died, and then I guess God took your soul out of that body and put it in another body, and you were going to go with that family. And as odd as it sounds, we have all these unusual, unique situations, and every time you turn around, you're hearing of these near-death experiences that are so interesting. There is a woman who is coming out with a book in September. She interviewed about 3,000 kids with near-death experiences, and that's coming out in September, and that should be a good read about what all these kids experienced and so forth. I did talk to her about my last near-death on the operating table. And because people are funny, they're so quick to judge and say, prove it. I was like, well, here's the cool thing. And you know what I think is really interesting that I did it. I tell everybody, if you're going in for an operation, get it filmed. As much as you don't want your body filmed, get it filmed, because if something happens, you have a document to prove that something did occur. On my situation, some women came down to my bed, and when I say women, they came through a hole, like a bright light above me, and they started singing, and they were pushing me back into my body, and they spoke a foreign language, which I've heard this before, and it almost sounded Russian. I've heard about the music before. I've heard about people wanting to play musical instruments to get back with that sensation that it was so loving and caring and desirable. I don't want to leave this planet. I would like to do a lot more with missing persons, but I'm in the process of it. But every time you turn around, I lack cooperation. Some police departments don't cooperate. Some police departments do cooperate. It's finding a missing person is complicated. I have a case out in Seattle, and I was working it for about 3 weeks, and I realized, oh my God, they walked right by the body. And I was like, but how could a body be in that hole? I'm just going to give an example. And it was really weird because I thought to myself, oh my God, I see her hands, and I was like, hands. And then I realized that the serial killer put her hands in that hole, but just her hands. If you get my drift.
Yes, I get your drift. Now, here's a question. I'm sorry. Now, I was going to ask you, like, do these premonitions or these feelings that you get, like, are you involved in a case, or could it just be, like, all of a sudden you just have this thought that just comes to your head? And then and you're not involved in the case, and you just have this information, and then you go to, like, say, the police, and you tell them, you know what I mean? Like, do they think you're like, yeah, okay, lady, or whatever, or
of course they do.
Or like, do you think, like, well, how would she know this information? You know what I mean? Like,
because she's Johnny Wishbone.
Well,
from the island of St. Croix.
I mean, have anybody ever, like, said, yeah, like, like how you know this?
All sorts of names. I called on. I didn't call on a case. Somebody called me and asked me to help them with a case. So I met with PG County Police in, I think it was Maryland, and I gave some examples, and I took them down to a street, and I said, "There's something right here," and they pulled back the weeds, and it said, "A pretty little girl." I mean, the killer was really pretty. I mean, he was a possible serial killer. I mean, he only killed like 3 people, but not large scale. But they found it. I mean, they took photographs and so forth. So I went right there to that particular spot. On that particular case, the people that introduced me to the police were pretty much bizarre. And because of their reputation, it tainted my reputation. And so I eventually disassociated with the people. And so you do have to be careful who you associate with. I worked on the Kaylee Anthony case by sheer accident. On that one, I didn't call. What had happened was a supposedly former FBI agent called my dad and asked him to do the case. And he said, I don't do crime cases, Ginette does. And my dad does more water wells, the military. We both do military type work, and location work and treasure work and so forth. But on that particular case, the guy called and said, I need you to locate this, help me locate people and tell me how you locate people and so forth. And then all of a sudden the Kaylee Anthony case popped up. But I live in the Richmond area of Virginia, and it's really weird. There wasn't a lot of TV on it at the time. And secondly, I was very involved with my toddlers, my kids, so I didn't have a lot of time to watch TV. So I wasn't, in the inertia of it or the plethora of information going on with the Kaylee Anthony case. So I really was clueless about what was happening, that it was such a big deal. Right. On that particular case, the gentleman called and said, what do you think, and so forth. And in June, I remember saying, oh, she's over here, and they blew me off. And I said, well, okay, whatever. And then they kept calling and saying, well, what else do you get? What else do you get? And I kept saying she was moved, whatever. And then they kept saying, oh, well, now we think she's in South America. Let's send the press to South America. I said, I'm not going to piss anybody off. You don't want to piss off the press. It's bad enough the cops don't listen. And I said, look, you guys are trying to help supposedly with this case. Why don't you just let me talk to the cops? And they go, no, we're taking care of this. So, your hands are tied a lot with these cases. And you just have to accept it. And when the case was done and they finally discovered I was the one that told them where her body was, Mr. Detective Allen called me and said, why didn't you call me and tell me? I said, oh, okay, so I'm your 2021 and, person to call you, and you're going to take my call and listen to me and follow up. I don't think so.
Now, how did that come about? How did you, get that feeling like where she was? Like, how did it come to you?
It just came to me quickly in visions. Some cases come to me very fast in visions. And they give me samples of information, like follow, I must have been an American Indian in the last life because I do a lot of tracking. So I said, I see her leaving I see a guy leaving the house, taking the body right down the street, and I see a suburban. And it turns out nobody told me. I didn't have any maps. A lot of the information in the news was totally incorrect. Right. Nobody ever gave me a map. I had to work from just straight vision work. And hold on, stop it, kitties. My cats are being bad. So I had to work straight from my head, like, watching a TV program or looking at postcards. And when I got Suburban down the road, I found out the body was on Suburban Street, which I didn't know. Nobody told me. I mean, it was months later, I found out it was Suburban Street. And I thought, well, thanks for sharing, guys. I'm giving you all this time for free. They didn't pay me. Everybody goes, oh, she got paid. No, I didn't. I was trying to help this one particular gentleman learn how to do it, and he just couldn't grasp it. But I do think you have to have, I don't use the word gift. I do think that you have to have a brain that is open to it. Yeah. I mean, look at Paul. He's from British from Britain. And I think the key thing is he's probably open to it because he grew up with it. It is what it is. Here in America, it's taken longer for us to open our eyes and see things as they really are, the reality check.
I don't know. I think Paul's kind of skeptical. I'm the one who I would say is probably more tuned into it. Like, he's never had ghost experiences or anything like that. Like when we were talking and I was telling you, like, our former house that we bought, as soon as I walked into that house, I started feeling like I was being watched. Like, I did not feel like I was the only one in the house.
Well, I was there too.
Yeah,
and I started feeling this thing, and it was like money coming out of my wallet. I didn't know exactly what was going on.
Oh, yeah, here we go again with the jokes. It's always, he's got to turn everything into humor. But, like, I would have this feeling like when I was in the kitchen that there was, like, somebody, like, standing behind me, you know, or sometimes I would feel like I saw something, like, quickly run past me and all. And, you know, then one night I kept on saying, and I remember telling my husband all the time, I'm like, Paul, there's, like, a black shadow or something, like, standing
No,
at
in
the
this
door.
town there's not.
No, like at the door, you know? And I'm like, I keep feeling. And I kept sensing that it was like a little boy, you know? And then, like, another time I was just like laying down and I felt this energy that was in the room. And I swear I felt like this energy invaded my body because I could not stand. I couldn't move. I couldn't talk. It was like I was like paralyzed. And I felt from like my toes to the top of my head like a surge of like energy or volts or something like going through me. And I just remember like saying like, go away, you know? It felt like it felt evil, you know? And surely enough, like I had asked the former owner of the house and I'm saying, look, have you had any experiences in this house? Because I'm getting all of these weird things happening to me. And they said, oh yeah, like we had a little boy that would come in and sit and watch TV with, you know, with my daughter, you know, or he would sit on the end of my bed and tickle my feet and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, like, why didn't you disclose this? And she's
because
like
you have to
me,
put it on the disclosure for a house when you sell it.
She's like to me.
There's a line that says, please mention any psychic shit that happened in the house while you were living there.
No, she said to me that they only contact people who are open to it.
Well, if you're not
People
open,
who
why would
believe.
you even see it?
Well, there's other factors too. You're supposed to legally tell them, but they're not going to tell you. They want to sell the house and walk
I want to
away.
know
They don't
what...
want that.
There's a house in my town where 3 people were murdered. You have to disclose that, I would imagine. You know.
It's the law. Actually, you do.
But
Yeah,
I don't
well,
think...
that's common
I would
knowledge,
love to
'cause
know the
everybody
law that
knows.
says you have to say if you saw, you know, like a TV floating across your room or something at 3 o'clock in the afternoon 5 years ago. You know, but I want... My buddy Tom is on the phone too, and I haven't seen Tom this quiet ever. So, Tom, have you had any of this?
Denise is on a roll. So I didn't want to interrupt, but
It's not a roll, it's a sandwich, Tom.
You were,
Anyway,
you were just laughing at me, though.
No, he was laughing at me because I made a joke. I was
I
trying to get
thought
a,
he was laughing at me when I was saying like how I felt the
no.
surge of energy going through my body.
He
and
did.
all.
He did get a snicker in when you said, "I don't know how many volt is going through me."
No,
But,
I swear to God, it felt like I was being electrocuted. Like I felt like a vibration, like a strong, intense, like electricity of some source going through my body.
And she woke up and I'm
And
standing
I've
there.
had feelings as well too, where I felt like my body. I don't know if it was an added experience or what it is, but like my fists or my hands would feel humongous, like giant. You know, like I felt
And she'd find him
like
in my wallet.
I was this, like, I don't know, like I can't explain it. Maybe you could understand what I'm trying to say, Ginette.
I want to know if Tom's had any of these experiences.
I was just going to ask Ginette. She mentioned the parents from a past life, and as far as you know, the way you get an intuition or the way that you see something, I was going to ask the actual process of how that happens. Are these do you have spirit guides? Do you see auras?
No.
Is it more cinematic, like you described a little earlier? At least it sounded cinematic. You see a guy doing something and things of that
Right.
nature. What's the actual process of the intuitions you get and the way that you come to these psychic conclusions?
Well, I do want to say that the cinematic is probably the best description. I can literally drive a car and my sister's sitting next to me and asking me a bunch of questions, like, what, this week I got to do this, this, and this. What do you think of how they'll turn out? And all of a sudden, while I'm driving the car, my siblings call it the zone. They call it Ginette's zoning. And I say, oh, I see this, this, and this, and I'll get names and dates and that kind of thing. And they go, then all of a sudden I get quiet and they're like, stop zoning, God darn it. And I'm like, what? You asked the question. You shouldn't have asked me a question like that when I'm driving the car. But it becomes very cinematic. It's almost like a 3D. It is. Sometimes it can come where it's transparent. Sometimes it comes in a hologram. Sometimes it, I haven't had an MRI on my brain, but I am trying to get a hold of when I died at the hospital, during the surgery, to get a hold of the disc and then say, I'd like to get an MRI based on this situation. But it's definitely cinematic. And it's funny. It's almost like I'm using the left eye to drive and the right eye to see the visions. For example, let's say you asked a question and the information didn't come. It's because the question wasn't posed properly. Or the cinematic, I find that if I drink a lot of water, the cinematic situation happens rather rapidly. And that's why I don't call it a gift, because there's so many of us that have a part of the brain that can turn on if we know how to turn it on. It's like, I could tell a joke, it's like flushing the toilet. You want some of the stuff to go away and you want the good stuff to come in. So you turn on your computer and say, hey, I need this, this, and this. I've given out lottery numbers to people. I've seen things that people, I thought they saw them. It was that clear to me in a 3D or 4D situation. I'll just give you an example, Tom, if this helps you. I was at the house one day and I look over and I thought I saw a little girl. I'm sure a lot of us have seen something in the corner of our eye, but mine is like right in front of the eye. And she was skipping down the hall and you could hear her skipping. And I thought to myself, wow, that's weird. But I've been seeing deceased people all the time, so I just assumed it was a deceased little girl. And she kept coming back and forth. And then my neighbors came over and they go, who's that little girl? Are you babysitting? And I said, no. Very similar to what Denise is going through, but I didn't get the electrical impulses or the big hands or anything like that. Of course, everybody's experience is different. And this little girl would go back and forth. And I said, where are you from? And all of a sudden she disappears. And I said, where are you from? And I heard New England. And I noticed her dress was a certain era, like the 60s. And so this sounds goofy, but I thought, okay, so let's look up a kid maybe missing from New York, or a kid missing from, I knew it was a blonde, I knew it was white, and race doesn't matter. I get anything and everything. And I pull it up, and I said, holy crap, there's that kid. And I had a name to go with the face. And then 2 days later, she comes to me in a dream. So I do have dreams. Mm-hmm. My dreams are so emphatic that she told me I was murdered and I'm buried with 2 other kids. And the killer was in a carnival and he was in New England and I'm in Massachusetts, right at this park on Oak Street. It was that specific.
Wow.
I said,
now, do you have situations like you just mentioned, that just sort of came to you out of the blue? When people ask you to do things or try to find things, do you also have sort of an active, I'm going to sit down and do this now, kind of a remote viewing thing where you can make it happen to a degree when you want to? So it's both.
Yeah. I have a guy coming in town right now with like 10 buried treasure jobs. And I'm going to be doing both remote viewing, dowsing, and my psychic visions. I add them all together. My dad actually wrote a book on, which I titled, it was Buried Treasure Hunting, combining buried treasure combining parapsychology with buried treasure hunting. And a lot of buried treasure hunters, those guys, I don't mean to be rude, they kick ass. They use their intuition. They go over to an area and suddenly they find something. Their metal detector is a big plus, but something tells them to go to a certain area of the property and bingo, they find something. I could go on and on with different casework I've done. One of my most favorite was that I believe all these people that are dead deserve to come home. When I went to the heavens, they said, I want my people home. And I was like, okay, maybe our souls don't go to heaven until we are found and buried or cremated or whatever the case may be. And I had a hooker come to me, and she said, find me. And I like 2 days later, I got a phone call from a woman right after the Kaylee Anthony case. And she said, my name is so-and-so and my daughter's missing. And in my dream, I saw her face, and the mom sent me a picture in the mail with a clip of her hair and her hairbrush, I believe, and something else. And I said, okay. So I put it by my bedside, and I started getting information, and she kept talking about a hotel. And I knew it was a dangerous case, and I didn't know why, but put everything by my bed, which is called dream incubation. And I incubate dreams to get information, which is what I'm going to be teaching in my books. And the next thing you know, she says, I'm on the corner of Oak Street and the railroad tracks, but I'm not the only body right there. I'm within a block, like not even a block. I'm about 30 feet from another guy who was killed by a serial killer, and the dead guy's in the culvert. So when you look for me, look for him too and bring him home. And a group of 40 people went out. They found her. They found the dead guy with the serial killer, but what happened was we didn't go public. It turns out that the cop that I was working with, the detective, said, get your people out of there. The FBI is there waiting for the serial killer to come back and move the body of the dead guy. And we know the girl's body is there, but we know that the cops are the ones who killed the dead girl, the hooker. I was like, great. That's great. And I couldn't do anything. Yeah, because they were dirty cops, drugs, Florida drugs.
Oh my God.
And so it was an eye opener. So I couldn't go public. Some of my casework.
I was gonna say, do you ever get scared because you have this knowledge that, someone who's trying to keep the truth, that they might come after you to silence you?
If it's too scary, I just tell people I'm not doing it.
Okay. Well, that's good. I guess something is telling you, don't go there. Don't do it.
Right. So, Tom, do you get cinematic visions, or you don't, or you want to know how to do it?
Well, no, my interest isn't. I mean, I don't have doubts. I'm not certain. I'm not. I'm kind of on the fence. Although I did once have a hooker come to me and say, "Find me," later. It was on the street in Las Vegas, but
funny.
I had a grandfather who was a clairvoyant. At least that's what he said, and what many other people said. And he could predict the weather, and he could predict certain things that would happen. And he actually would visit a community of clairvoyants that was in a town in Indiana near where I grew up. And so I've been exposed to it, and I'm very, very interested in the subject. Unfortunately, unlike Denise and perhaps Paul, I have never had an extreme moment of clairvoyance myself. I did have a spirit woman who had a spirit guide on my radio show for many years, and I did see her predict many things that she had absolutely no ability to know, in advance would be true. So I've seen the results, but I have never actually experienced them myself.
Okay, well, I'll give you a couple of occurrences that happened to me that, I even surprised myself. I'm not going to lie, and I'm sure Denise surprises herself, and Paul probably picks on her and laughs about it, which I think is healthy. Because you have to
thinks I'm a psycho or whatever. You know what I mean? Like the things that I say or that I feel.
Okay.
Like even intuition. There are things been in our life that I have picked up, I have sensed, and I told him. I predicted it. I knew it was happening, and I've never been wrong. There's a lot of things that just tell me I've never been wrong.
The nearest thing I had is I was dreaming one time I was eating a really big marshmallow, and I woke up and the pillow was gone.
Oh yeah, all right, whatever, Paul. Whatever.
Well, good
funny,
haha.
No, but here's the most important question. The most important question from all of our listeners is exactly where do we hide the body when you can't find it? We need to know where to put the body you can't find.
Maybe, you know what? Maybe she could help solve the crime where you're going to be.
That's not going to work. It's easier. No, he's mouthy, so you're going to find him.
Yeah,
He'll be
exactly.
Because
even when he's dead, he won't shut up.
Yeah, he's going to go, help me, I'm right here. but anyway.
He'll be with the hooker.
All right, I've had it with his guest now, just saying.
Oh, he'll be with the hooker.
So I got it with his guest quick.
Yeah.
Okay, so I get it. If I don't hear you, Paul, I know you're not there. Yeah. That's okay. I'll come give you nightmares tonight, Paul. All right, so.
Well, that makes two of you then.
Yeah, I hear you. So, that's hard to recover from. That makes two of you. Okay. So, Tom, I'll tell you something funny. Many moons ago, I was given a party at one of my apartments, and 2 weeks before the party, I had a dream that the Berlin Wall was going to fall apart and go into little pieces. And so the night of the party, I was telling everybody, they said, okay, give us a prediction. I said, okay, the Berlin Wall is going to fall apart and it's going to be taken down and the walls are going to, the gate's going to open up. I said, it'll still be a little tricky, but you can go back and forth. And you talk about a fun party being ruined in minutes. People didn't want to hear it. They thought I was crazy. They said, okay, we're done here. Enough with this psychic stuff. And then within 2 weeks, the Berlin Wall fell.
Wow.
The one thing that was really cool, though, that I think was I don't want to say my finer moment because it was disgusting, was 9/11. 2 years before 9/11, I don't know what I don't know if it was the pizza I ate the night before, but I went to bed and I had a dream about these two tall towers in New York City, and I did not know they were called the Twin Towers, and I should have known because I'm a twin. But I saw these two buildings that looked identical. That's how I described it. And I said, it's really weird. These airplanes are going to go straight into these two buildings, and the buildings are going to eventually collapse, and it's going to kill a ton of freaking people. And I was so shaken by it. I said, because I heard this date. It said September 11th. So I called my husband, and I knew it was early in the morning. I saw everybody going to work. You know how you New Yorkers are. You take your briefcase or whatever, and you're going to work. You're going to the building. So that means to me going to work. If it was in the evening, it'd be a little darker, and you'd be leaving the building. Mm-hmm. And so you have to look at all these little details. So I called my husband at work, and I said, in 2 years, and that's what the dream told me. It said, in 2 years, this event is going to happen. And my husband had put me on speakerphone, and he was in the engineering crew room of Amtrak, and they go, your wife is freaking nuts. And they go, no, she's really, somebody defended me. She's a psychic. She's really pretty good. And I was like, yeah, okay. And, I was given so many specifics. And I said, I just remember the details, like the big white clouds. Do you remember when the building fell? It was like white or gray clouds on the TV. Mm-hmm. And I just gave all these details, and I guess there were 10 or 20 people in the room. And then when it did occur, they actually called, my husband was off that day, they actually called him in. And I guess a couple minutes before it happened, I was getting in the tub and I had a baby, and I was getting in the tub with the baby, washing the baby, and my nephew screamed, oh, we just got attacked. I said, yeah, right. But I had forgotten about my prediction. And so my husband got a call 15 minutes later and said, you're coming to work right now, no matter what, because, lockdown and safety and security. And I'm very fortunate. Some of my predictions have been recorded, or some of the casework I've done, I've had more than one person hear it, or even when I did the Chandra Levy case, people go, that's not true. Nobody knows about it. I said, oh, they know about it. Just you weren't there. The FBI was sitting in my living room with a community leader, and I said, oh, she's down at Rock Creek Parkway. And they go, how do you know that? Which is the duh moment, duh. Mm-hmm. I said, oh, she's, I'm from D.C. originally, so, I was like, oh, I see horses. That's the remote viewing. So first you get the vision, then you get the remote viewing. And then I got this cinematic thing where I saw this guy that was Hispanic who had been raping somebody else. I said, oh, it's a rapist. And I said, he went to rape her, but then it got out of control, so he killed her. And I said, he went to this spot. Oh, my gosh, I see a badge. Oh, it's where the police horses are kept. And I said, it's a police station. And then you go down the hill, and he put her in the creek bed, and she's tied up. So that's why they haven't found her, because she is half the body size. She wasn't a big girl anyway. She was small.
Right.
And I said, so think of this. If you're hunting for her or a missing person, you're not looking for a 5-foot person or a 6-foot person. You're looking for half that size because she was tied up. And I got feedback on it. And a news reporter I knew called me and said, Ginette, you were on the money. It was you said, leave the horse station, the police station, get down the hill, go to the creek. She's right there. And I said, she goes, you were right there. You were absolutely right. What had happened was the cops switched around they put 300 cops in there searching in that creek bed. And unfortunately, the Hispanic guy had put the rocks on top of the body. And when they walked across the creek bed, they were not paying attention to detail. They loosened her up. 3 days later or so, a man was walking his dog.
And she was floating.
She was floating. So,
Well,
I mean, these cases are very, very complicated. But, I mean, sometimes you get rewarded by saying, wow, I did it. I mean, I know I can do it. I better pay attention next time to the details. I really need to recognize that.
Well, as I said, the psychic that I used to have on my show, she knew things. There was no way she could possibly, infinite minute details of obscure incidents and things, and she would know them. And I had personal knowledge of things like that without boring everybody with the details. Are you able to predict things for yourself personally? I'm not talking about family, friends, people close to you. I'm talking about you yourself personally.
Yes. I mean, I'll tell you 2 or 3 short stories. Before I got married, I was told I was going to marry a blonde, and I was always looking out for this blonde guy. I was like, okay. And I was dating. I was pretty cute, so I was dating a lot. I was like, and the darker-haired guys kept asking me out, and guys were asking me to marry them left and right. And I was like, you're not blonde. It ain't happening. And I kept, it was one of those things. And I was like, okay. And I knew some different blondes, but they had moved away. And then eventually I left my brown-haired boyfriend and rented an apartment, and my 2 roommates were dirty blondes. And one of them was more of a blonde. And oddly enough, when I went to meet the other roommate, I had come in from out of town, and I walked in the door, and I saw this. It was bizarre. This woman behind him, who was like a Nephilim, like a giant, and she had wings, and she goes, "You're going to marry this guy." And I'm looking around, and I said, "Do you guys see that?" And they go, "What?" I said, that all that light right there. And they go, "There's no light right here." But see, I think everybody else sees it. Some of this stuff is so emphatic. Anyway, he was a dirty blonde, and I married him, and he turned out to be a good guy. So thank God for that. Recently, I had a dream. I was sick, and I need to go to the doctor, and I did, and I am getting over breast cancer. And my doctor said there's no way I could have known I had it.
Wow.
So I hope that gives you the chills, because I
Yeah.
told my husband I kept dreaming it, and I was like, okay, stupid, listen to your dream, go see the doctor. And they go, "How did you know to come in here?" I said, I had a dream. I'm not going to tell them I'm a psychic. They're going to think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, good for you.
It's funny because Denise gets mad
Continued
because
prayers.
Denise wakes up in the middle of the night and I'm checking her for breast cancer like every night. And
Oh my God.
Denise also dreams that you get cancer. So it's full circle.
God,
She's probably thinking I need some super glue for his lips. I mean,
Yeah.
give him a new lipstick.
when my lips aren't talking, they're working wonders. So she'll never glue
No,
them
you
up.
know what? My biggest thing with him
here we go.
is give him enough a rope. He's going to hang himself. Like,
Good one, Denise.
I already know that, like, I don't know. Like I said, I've always, like, when it comes to him, I've always been one step, for some reason, one step ahead of him.
You haven't asked her the one thing you asked the other psychic.
What was that?
All right, so Denise's mother's mother, no one's seen her since 1957 when her mother was 18. And we think she was born in 1900, but we haven't been able to track anything. And no one's seen her since 1957. And we think she might have got remarried. We doubt she's alive still.
Well, no, she's definitely dead.
But the other psychic, actually, let's not tell her what the other psychic said. We want to know what happened to her after
My
she was
grandmother.
last seen in 1957. It's Denise's grandmother, mother's mother.
Okay. So you want to know what happened to her? She's buried.
Well, that's quite an easy one, really. You know what I mean?
That's really a tough one. And no, I see her in a hole, so that means she's buried, so she's deceased. And it has to do, so what I do is I break it down. So, all right, so I see a hole, and I see her being buried, and I see a gravestone. And it's really funny because this is an unusual gravestone, but she is in a cemetery. So then what you have to do is you have to go look at the town she's in, and it has to do with the letter H. So, Denise, where is your mom from originally?
Well, my mom
West
originally...
New York, she was born, right?
No, my mom originally is from Jersey City.
Yeah.
My mom is from Jersey City. Now, her family...
we just found half of them using
was
the
from
DNA.
Lyndhurst.
Yeah.
Okay, her family...
Yeah, it doesn't feel like Lyndhurst. So, in other words, you're saying Lyndhurst, I get the letter H, and that's not a match. So if you had said she's from Hoboken, I would say, okay, so you need to look for the cemetery in Hoboken.
That's what I'm saying. My grandmother used to, Hoboken is very, very close to Jersey City. And the last that we knew of, she was...
Union City.
She was like a superintendent of an apartment complex.
Some kind of apartment building complex or something.
And that's the last that we heard.
Union City, I think it was.
That's the last that we heard or known of her existence.
Well, let me tell you what the next step I got was the letter R is very important. So, okay, hold on. I just got another vision. So now I'm not getting cinematic. I'm getting like a postcard. So, sorry. So, all right, hold on. So I'm looking at all these different what they're showing me is the kind of cemetery she's in. She's near an apartment complex that I don't know that it's a high rise. It could be mid rise, like 3 or 4 stories. I'm going to say 4 stories. And she is near a building that looks like. So I have to start. What I normally do is I get a map, and I touch the map and I say, she lived here at one time. Show me where she is now in her final resting spot. And because there's no crime involved, it's a lot easier. But I keep going back to the letter R. Now, here's the problem. R could be she's in the R section of the cemetery, all right? Or what's the name of it? Is Hoboken a county or a city?
City.
It's a city.
But the county is Hudson County, right?
Hudson County.
No, is it Union County? No, it's Hudson County, right? Yeah.
Okay, so do you remember I mentioned the letter H?
Right, that's what I'm wondering.
Know that. Yeah, but the R is very strong. So I'm trying to go to the street sign, and I'm trying to use remote viewing to go to the street sign. And what's really weird is that the street sign is not changing, but it did. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So the street sign 1 minute is an off-white with black lettering, and then I saw a green lettered street sign, which means to me she's like right next to like a government building, so that cemetery is right there. But then what I do is I say, okay, so you pull up on the computer and print out the maps of Hudson County and Hoboken. And by the way, right now, just really quick, all of a sudden,
I heard Riverside.
Hoboken is in Hudson County, by the way.
I don't know. Something just popped in my head, and the word Riverside just came to me. But I don't know what
Denise
that
is
means.
hungry. That's the name of a diner. So
no, it's funny. Just Riverside.
Very good. But do you see how I gave you the letter R, and then your brain says Riverside? Now, Riverside you have to think outside the box. Riverside could be the name of the cemetery. It could be the name of the street she's on, because remember I got suburban on the other case. And so I'm looking at the street sign and I see a letter, but what's really weird is the letter G, but that doesn't make sense. So I was like, okay. Oh, and I see a very important bridge is nearby. So I pull out the map and I pull up the cemeteries, and then I say, okay, show me a bridge near a cemetery. And if there's only one cemetery near a bridge, that would be my favorite one. And now that you're saying Riverside, I would try to see if Riverside was a street, right next to the cemetery.
River's Edge is right near there. River Edge, and that's right by the GW Bridge.
Okay, do you see what I'm saying? You take the landmarks and you sort of isolate it, and then what you do is you go to that cemetery and say, hey, do you have your grandmother's full name?
Well, her birth name was
Margaret Mary O'Brien.
But it might be Mary Margaret, because it's driving me nuts trying to find this information. And I can find people, not like you, obviously, but I can find people when I'm trying to find. And this is the one that's been challenging me for years now. She just disappeared off the face of the earth in 1957. No, they said that she married.
No, it was after 57.
No, your mother was 18. It was 1957.
Yeah, that's when no, but it was after, because my mom said that.
She said it was when she was 18, 1957.
Oh, all right, because I thought she said that she saw her at least once after the kids were born, or one of us was born.
Well, the cemeteries keep a log of who's in their cemetery plots. You know that, right?
Yeah, we've searched all the ones in the areas we've expected to look.
Yeah, see, like all the other members of her family are all buried in a cemetery in Lyndhurst. What is that road?
I didn't pick up the letter.
What is that long road?
You keep talking over it, Denise.
Ridge Road.
But we've been in that.
Goes through Lyndhurst. There is a cemetery off of Ridge Road in Lyndhurst. What is the cemetery, Paul? Can you Google, or could you look up the cemeteries that are off Ridge Road near Lyndhurst?
Ridge Road in Lyndhurst has a cemetery called Holy Cross, beginning with H.
Okay.
And also there's one called Hillside, but Hillside Cemetery is on Rutherford Avenue, but that's an R as well.
H there. Yeah, there's an R and an H.
But Hillside Cemetery, we've been there 1,000 times trying to find her, but we don't know if she married again. You know what I mean? So we don't know the right last name, I don't think, to find her.
Okay, but sometimes they have a log of their birth dates and stuff like that. I mean, did you go back to obituary?
We asked that cemetery, and they didn't have anything.
But we didn't know the last name to look for.
Yeah, we didn't know the last name to look for.
They didn't have it by date of birth.
We didn't see anything because all the other family members are all buried together, like her brother, her mother.
Yeah, let me ask you a couple of questions. While I'm sitting here, I'm hearing a couple of names. And, if they're not important to you, great, so be it, whatever. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, these names are being thrown at me, and maybe was your grandmother, did she have a nickname, or she didn't?
I don't know one.
Like I said, I never met her in my life. So
okay. Okay. So, all right. So do you know a Naomi, or do you know a Melanie? Mel? No? Okay, that's...
It's weird because the last name that they said that she might have married, or they heard she married, was Niehaus or Niehauser.
Niehauser.
Mm-hmm.
She used to be a Walsh.
Yeah, she was a Walsh, and then I don't think she married Denise's mother's father, which was
Colton,
which turned out not to be hers anyway.
Out not to
we did a DNA test and we found
her father,
the real grandfather instead. And they're all from Bayonne and that area, but and that's right here.
City.
That's all around the same area: Jersey City, Hoboken, all around the same area. But
and it's certainly fun. The only thing is, when I got that H, it was so strong that would be my follow-up. And if you mailed me a map of where is it? Remember I said there felt like a bridge not too far?
Well, George Washington Bridge is there. I mean, Hoboken has the link. There's the Bayonne.
Ask our cousins who's on.
There's also the Bayonne Bridge.
Better than us.
By Hoboken, there's a ton of bridges there, but there's the Bayonne Bridge, and then there's another bridge that goes from. I guess that's the Bayonne Bridge that goes from Hoboken to Bayonne. But then but by River's Edge, there's the GW Bridge, the George Washington Bridge. So there's quite a few bridges.
Yeah, the question is there a cemetery right nearby too?
I'm looking on there.
I just felt like I was.
I just
near
asked
a
my
bridge.
cousin what bridge is near Jersey City.
I'm not worried about that. The key factor is find
Bayonne
a cemetery.
Bridge.
That's what I said already.
Yes. I didn't get a B, but for right now, but I do feel like I'm in a more of a raised area. I do see. I'm trying to see. It's quite a large cemetery, but I'm trying to look and see what else I can see from the perspective. I'd have to pull it up. What I do is I like to write down all my little clues and I put them in parentheses and say, these are all your little clues. Then I go on Google and say, okay, so we got this. And then we pull up the cemeteries and I say, oh, this feels like the cemetery where you want to be. And then what you do is tell them, listen, I'm trying to find my grandmother and we're just guesstimating she might be at this location. And could you look up this person's maiden name or her first name and see if she's in this particular location? So you don't know her. Okay, so I'm going to ask you the dumbest question. You know what? When you get there, there may be a guy by the name of Ron there, R-O-N. It sounds like Ron.
Write this down, Paul.
You can listen back to it.
But what was that, Paul?
No, I was saying she can listen back and make notes later if she wants.
Yeah. But we don't want to bore your audience. So is there something else?
No, I
in
think they're
particular?
probably intrigued because a lot of my family actually is also listening on the podcast. I'm actually messaging my cousin, Kathy.
Yeah. Well, it is a lot of fun. I'm not going to lie to you that, what I used to do was every once in a while I'd have a party and invite my friends and say, look, let's have fun. You guys sit here and ask questions. When I had my baby shower, I was the entertainment. Okay. So, it was a fun party because I had like 35 women come to 37. It was a lot of women. And I got some great gifts and I was sitting there and here's the bad side of being a psychic. And everybody
You knew
had a question.
everything
They
that
put
when
on
you were opening?
Oh, come on. So stupid.
That happens to me all the time. No, seriously. If somebody's buying me a gift, I'll tell them, I know what you're getting me. I know, or if we're going somewhere. Like, I do this to Paul all the time. And I'm like, we're going here. And he'll, like, have this shit-ass grin because he knows. And then, he's like, he thinks, like, somebody told me. And I'm like, no, I just know. Like, and I'm right. Even with gifts, I'll open it before, and I'm like, I know what's inside here.
But
weird.
see, that's there are two or three things. Sometimes you're getting telepathy. That's a standard green light.
Right.
And then because you had a near death at 4, your brain is jarred. You should go do an MRI and see if you have the similar brain of a person that has psychic ability. I talked to one radio jock, and he said, we tested a lot of people. Either you have it or you don't. I don't know about that. I think that we can open our brain up, not surgically, but if we say, okay, I want to try it.
I've had MRIs. I probably even have a copy, but I don't.
But how would you know how to?
Said anything
but
like
how
that to
would you
me.
know how to look at it to know what she's talking about? She said you have an MRI that shows that you have the psychic stuff.
I just think that you should go online. You guys have great doctors in New York. They're probably doing studies all the time, trying to test out parapsychology in people. That would be one of the top locations most likely for a study. I know Dr. May in California was doing some kind of work, and his friends were testing psychics, really good psychics from Stargate, and they wanted to do MRIs on all the Stargate participants and see how psychic they were, what was the green light in their brain that would help them know how to do remote viewing.
Paul, do me a favor. Like when we were talking and stuff like that, and I said river. Now, I know there is a River Road. Is there a cemetery in Hackensack?
It's Ridge Road.
No. Is there a River Road, and is there a cemetery on River Road in Hackensack?
All right, hold on. I'll look.
What's the most common question that you get, Ginette?
Lottery numbers
from people.
Yeah, Paul's pretty much in the correct category. I have had some lottery winners. I think, I hate to say this. A lot of times people want to know how their romantic life is. Okay, so let's see. Today, for example, let's say the last 3 days.
Boy.
Okay, a lot of treasure hunters are calling. And of course I charge for my time. I've had some producers call. Let me think what else. Romance.
Yeah.
Today another treasure hunter called about real estate. So people will call me about real estate, which I love doing real estate. Another woman called the other day regarding some missing keys. And there is a process with that too, which my book is going to be a trilogy. How to find missing objects, whether it's your keys or whatever. Stop and stay still and, use this protocol. The second one is how to find your missing animals, because I find missing animals. And your third one is probably going to be on how to find a missing person. And I'm not talking about being a PI. So I guess I would say my biggest thing is everybody and their brother wants to know about their love life. Everybody wants love. I mean, it's great.
That was what we got the most of, too. We got people, that was by number one. We got a lot of other great questions, too, but everybody wants to know, hey, am I going to, find true love? There's a guy I know. Is he the one for me? Blah, 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 blah. I mean, that's what they want to know about. And surely Paul and Denise would like to know if they're ever going to fall in love.
Yeah. It's only been 21 years.
I know that ain't happening.
Well, I think Paul needs to spank you more, Denise. I think at this point
I think he needs the spanking.
I think it's a mutual do over.
I found a Riverside Memorial Chapels of New Jersey in Hackensack.
That sounds like
which is a cemetery, but I don't know.
I'll tell you what happened to me the other day. If this helps you,
it's gonna bother me.
What I do is I try to go with all the landmarks. For example, I'm going to give you two quick stories on the lottery. Mm-hmm. I went to a small dowsing get together in D.C. and I guess there were like maybe 50 people there. And I said, listen, just to cheer up everybody today, I'm going to give you a lottery number. And I'm going to give you 2 or 3 of them. And if you want to play them, great. If you don't, it's your loss. Do not blame me. And no, you're not going to call me back and say, give me a lottery number. And so I gave a lottery number. And I was living in an apartment complex in Alexandria, Virginia. I mean, minutes from D.C. I mean, minutes.
Yeah.
All right.
It's right on the edge there. Yeah.
It is. It's like people say, oh, I'm from D.C. I mean, literally, it's like, what, a mile and a half, 2 miles, whatever.
Yeah.
And so... I get home and I said, like a week later, I went to the post office and I opened this letter, and my house was a block from the ghetto. The post office was like the front of it. The front of it was, to the left was the ghetto, to the right was my neighborhood. It was sort of scary, right on the edge. And I opened up this envelope from one of the men who attended the meeting that I gave the lottery number to. And all of a sudden, out of the envelope falls these $100 bills. It was so cool. And I thought to myself, I froze, because I was like, am I crazy, or do I see what I think I see? And I dropped to the floor and I started picking up the $100 bills, and there were several. And I was sort of freaking out because I knew a lot of people come in from the cold back then, the homeless people, and they would try to stay in the post office to keep warm. And so I tried to be very nonchalant about it. And so I stuffed it in my purse and ran to my car, and I read the note, and the guy said, Ginette, thank you so much for the lottery number. I played it so many times. I won over $8,000, and I'm sending you a thank you letter with cash. And it was like $1,500 in $100 bills. And I was like, yeah, buddy, that's nice. This will work. And I mean, so right now, recently, I've been playing with lottery. Like, I just had a dream recently for my sister. I said, oh gosh, I had a dream you won $250,000. And she goes, what? I said, go buy a scratcher that only offers $250,000. Only buy that one. And I said, if you win it, you can tell me and send me some money, which she would not. And and I even met another kid who the kid that had the near death at 7. He told a guy, I had a dream that you won a bunch of money from a scratcher. Get the one where it says 50 grand. You know how you go to buy your scratchers? It says you can win 200 or 500 or 1,000 or 10 grand or 5 grand. He goes, get the one for 50 grand. He won $50,000 off a scratcher. So sometimes you got to pay attention. The other day I had a dream and it said, go to Valero gas station. This is so goofy. But when you see these kids, especially the kid with the blonde hair riding a bicycle, because we have all these little bike riders, that's when you're going to win 10 grand. And I was like, okay, but I haven't seen them yet. So we went over and bought a few scratchers, and I kept winning and winning and winning. It was like $10 and $5 and $2. I was like, I'm looking for 10 grand, God. Do you mind? I could really use 10 grand.
That is so cool. That is so cool. Like sometimes, you know what, I get these stupid things that'll pop in my head, you know, or I'll say something to myself, you know, and a lot of times I say to myself, you know what, I should really just get a book and I should just write these things that I'm feeling or that's like, that I'm thinking of, you know, and I say
Tommy's
to myself,
agreeing.
like, no, and I say I say like, why the hell did I just think that? Like, why the hell did I just say that? Like, I'll catch myself just like saying something to myself, and then I'll sit there and I'll be like, why did I just think that?
One time Denise said, you know, probably like
here we go. Here comes a joke.
Once a day, Denise gets this idea in her head that she should like go clean the kitchen, and then she's like, nah, I'm not doing it.
That's not funny.
Yeah, she should say, you should do it, honey.
No, it's okay.
Yeah,
I'm
Paul
at work paying
Paul's
for the kitchen.
incapable. Yeah, Paul's incapable. I could predict everything that he's saying.
Is that a word, uncapable?
You are incapable.
No,
Yeah.
I think
That
it's
is.
not. It's
Is
not.
that a word?
I think it's
Incapable?
incapable.
Anyway, this is what I wanted to because you had got me so intrigued when I was telling
She's
you
gonna
about
drive you nuts now,
about the
Jeanette.
same family. Okay, the same family that I was telling you about that I had like a cousin who was murdered. You kept saying to me something about a woman.
That narrows it down
Like,
to 50%.
are you sure it wasn't a girl or something like that? Did you pick up or feel anything after our conversation?
Maybe she doesn't remember the conversation now.
You know what? I get so many calls here. I don't recall. I do recall the conversation, but I'm going to tell you honestly, women do kill. I'm not saying it was a woman. I'm saying it could be involving a woman. But you know, the thing is about my work is I prefer to sit down and do the protocol because the accuracy is much higher. Versus, I mean, I like to assess it properly without blurting stuff out.
Right.
You know, TV shows. Oh, let's deliver information right now. A lot of times you can do that, and then other times it can be very hurtful and insightful, or it just breaks people's hearts. So it's like you have to be very gentle with people because one minute they're fine, and then the next minute they freaking hate you. Meaning hate me. Yeah. I mean, I've had trolls come after me, burn our house down, you know, throw trash in our yard. And I'm thinking to myself, I have been nothing but kind to you. Why would you do that? Because they're just emotionally caught up in their issue. And so anyway, regarding your relative, why? What was? Where are you headed with this with your relative?
Well, I mean, it was just kind of like an unsolved. Like, I don't know if the killer was ever like found. From what I heard or from what another psychic had told us, that it wasn't done singularly, that he actually opened the door to his killer, and that one of the people who were involved in his killing still remain in the area.
Well, here's you know that as much as
that's
I
all.
think
You know.
Yeah, one thing I think that is great that they've got a little input, but I'm going to say this to you in a nice way, in a rude way. Wow, that really helps solve the freaking case.
Yeah.
That
exactly.
doesn't do anything. That doesn't give detail.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I like to assess it and say, okay, I'm getting this situation. It's either a white guy or a black guy, or a white girl or a black girl. You know what I mean? Or from India, or from South America.
Well, this is in
okay,
Lyndhurst. It happened in Lyndhurst. You know, and that was the area, the same area, you know.
Yes.
But this happened like 1967.
Right, but what I'm saying is I like to assess it. I like to sit down. I like to write it down. I like to write down the location. I even like the zip code. That sounds so stupid, but every detail helps me get more detail. But
Right.
I like the police term, just the facts, ma'am. I mean, literally, I was talking to somebody else they called the other day, and I said, listen, I don't mean to be rude. Shut up. This is not going to help at all.
Yeah.
And what you're saying doesn't make sense. So let's just push the crap to the side and go for the facts, just the facts. Okay, was it a guy or a girl? You know, was it this? Was it that? And so forth. I worked a case for some people at one time. They're from Jersey, and you know, I don't want to be rude, but they were big fat liars. They told the public they gave me $5,000. They gave me a check for $500, and that was a frickin' fight. And it was a cluster. And all I can tell you is, whenever I do a case, I like to sit down, assess it, and say, this is what I think. And I prefer to meet with the cops now because the families are just too tumultuous about dealing with it. Now, your situation is, it's a cold case, so it's not that bad, and you're not feeling that connected. You're just curious. And if you want to solve it, and I say, oh, look for this, this, and this, that's a separate story. And if it's facts, like what I just had a psychic call the other day because I'm training some psychic, and she goes, there's a snake there. I said, okay, the snake is not going to help the scenario. We need the facts. And that's what I'm trying to teach people all the time. That's why I was like, okay, so you've got the cemetery. I got the letter H, you know, but this is just a little bit, it's not enough information to help you go find your grandmother.
Right.
So what we have to do is we have to go with, get the map, print it out, and then look for all the landmarks that are nearby, which is using remote viewing to pinpoint where she's located. And
Is that what you mean by a protocol? You have a certain way of going about doing this. It's the you know, you don't want to deviate from, because it's been proven successful, and it's the way you aggregate information that gets you the best result.
Oh, absolutely. I'll just give you a scenario. I get a lot of calls about missing animals all the time. Love our animals. And somebody called me, and I said, well, okay, this is how it works with animals. And they go, really? And I'll tell you a cute story that I love. It's one of my favorites. I said, what does an animal do? They poop, eat, sleep, pee. You know, that's their protocol. Okay, so I said, they left the hotel, correct? And I said, yes. I said, I'm seeing a fire department. I said, is there one there? She goes, well, we heard them all night long going off. I said, the dog is going back and forth to the fire department getting free food. And they go, really? I said, but go ahead and go home, because they had to decide to leave Virginia Beach and go back to Jersey, quite a drive, or stay and try to find their pet. I said, don't do it. I'm going to give you the hint. It works out two ways. You say, show me the final process, all right? And what you do is say, show me where the doggie is now. And so you figure out the radius. You know how the FBI goes, oh, we're going to search for a missing person in the radius of 1 to 3 miles. You see lots of movies doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the doggie is under 3 miles. All right, so you know the border, all right? And I say, okay, so is the doggie off this street, or this street? All right, is the doggie being consistent? Where is the doggie getting food? Just like Bigfoot. You're looking for Bigfoot. Look for his damn nest or his damn food. Don't be so stupid. I mean, all these people, we're going to hunt for Bigfoot. Well, did you go during mealtime? Because guess what? That's when you're going to find him. I mean, some of this stuff is just so freaking ridiculous. So I said, the dog is going here and here to eat. So we know he's going to the fire department. And guess what the good news is? He's coming back to the hotel where you were every day at 3 and 4 o'clock every day looking for you. And she goes, you're kidding. And I said, no. All you have to do is have give the hotel manager $100 and say, can you check every day and see if my dog is outside? Leave him a picture of my dog, the doggie, and say, see if he's there. Guess what? A week later, the dog was there. He saw him one time, but he couldn't catch him. And it was at 3 and 4 o'clock every day. So what would he do? He would leave where he was because he had a sanctuary. He went to the fire department, got his food, came over to the hotel looking for mommy and daddy, and at 3 and 4 o'clock, and then they finally caught him. Within a week, they got their dog. I mean, everything has a pattern. It really is amazing.
I can't wait to watch. I can't wait to watch TMZ and find that Ginette has a friend that kidnaps dogs and drops business cards through their mailboxes.
I'm getting worried about you, Paul.
You don't need to be a psychic to do that.
No, but no,
You know,
my
I was
friends
just going
don't
to say
kidnap
something.
dogs.
Denise is off.
No. When she had said, did my grandmother have a nickname, right? Now, my mom's name, my grandmother's name was Margaret, but she had a daughter, okay, that also I believed had a name, but they, even though it wasn't her name, they called her mother's nickname, which I think was Peggy. I don't know, like,
Okay.
so Peggy, yeah, like Peggy for some reason. And I remember one of my cousins or somebody saying that. That's what
So
they
what
used
you need
to.
to do is put that in one of your little tips to trigger you to recall that when you call the cemeteries and say, can you tell me if you have a person buried in this cemetery roughly this time frame, and these could be the following names, and they'll get back to you. Now, they may also have it listed on the internet where you can go find it. You know, and maybe she is under the name of Peggy or Peggy Sue, whatever, and and that's, you're looking for the wrong person, and so that triggered you in your mind. Oh gosh, I should look for Peggy. So maybe that's why you haven't found her yet. You're not looking up the right person.
Yeah.
How
Because you want to know,
often-
I think, to tell you the truth, the way my family was, and you know, my mom had half sisters.
And they know everything.
And they knew everything.
They knew
and they
everything.
kept it.
They just didn't
They
tell
kept it from my mother, as well as they managed to get my mother, like, knocked off of any
the grandmother's
will,
brother's will.
as an ear she was, and they got her, like, kicked out.
So they knew everything.
They
but
knew.
They all died, right?
They didn't
now?
want my mother knowing anything about her own mom.
Yeah, scumbags.
So, yeah, she definitely...
Tom, you had a comment.
Well, I was just going to ask how often either people come to you and ask you to contact somebody who's no longer alive, or how often you run into someone and you get a premonition that causes you to say, hey, such and such a person on the other side, or however you choose to term it, wants to tell you something. Is that a large part of...
common situation? Well, here's my Virginia joke. You know, I don't walk up to other people and tell them their dead one is talking to me, because I don't have white bleached. Let me finish. White bleached blonde hair, and I don't scream standing there.
Right.
So if you see where I'm headed with that.
Yeah.
But I think Teresa Caputo is good, but I don't sit there and go, wah! You know, I don't need to do that. Okay. So first of all, I don't bug people about their private life.
Right.
If people suddenly asked me and said, can you talk to my deceased relative? I might do it. I mean, especially if they're sitting down paying me to spend my time helping them.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
And it's not about the money. It's about the fact that I'm working and this is what I do for a living.
Sure.
I have been places where my twin sisters opened her mouth and said, hey, my sister's a psychic. Why don't you just ask her? And I'm here like with killer eyes, shut your pie hole. You know, and then, because you know what? It's not going to be 5 minutes. It's going to be 2 hours of people. Oh my God. What is this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was more referring to not necessarily, coming up to a random stranger, but, someone you know personally, or certainly within the bounds of good taste. I would never, just from listening to you speak on this program, think that you're the type that's going to be at an airport and walk 3 gates down and go, hey, guess what? Grandpa says it's okay to sell the Chevy, or whatever. I mean, that doesn't sound like.
Yeah, no, I'm the type to say, Grandpa says, don't get on that damn plane, get off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that sounds really terrible, but I am big on predicting plane crashes. So, earthquake, all sorts of stuff, and because I'm just like, friend, I used to do that a lot for radio shows. They say, so when's the next plane crash? I said, May 31st around 4:00, and they go, what? And I'll say, yeah, American Airlines is going to crash and blah, 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 blah. And they're going to say, are you sure? And I'll say, really?
I I need a plane that's going to crash going out of New Jersey anytime in the next 5 years. And Denise is going on vacation that day. So.
Oh, you want me to tell you which date not to get on the plane or which date to get on the plane?
I want to know what date to buy Denise a ticket.
No, you're a real a-hole, okay? And let me just tell you something. What comes around goes around, so you better be careful
Wait,
what
what comes
you say.
around goes around?
Yeah, because what you're saying to me might actually come back and fall on you. So be careful with what you say about another person.
You know, Denise, you have just got to become more insensitive to him. He's just a
She's
booger.
retarded.
And
He's just a booger.
He's an ass.
Denise, he's got issues. Just look at
Yes,
it
he
that
does
way.
have
Every time I have one of
issues.
these-
And his
You know, I have
medicine ain't
three
helping.
clients. Yeah. But anyway, Todd, to answer your question, people are funny. I had a girl come here one time, and she said, "Can you talk to one of my deceased relatives?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. Which one? Which side of the family? Male or, your grandpa or your grandma?" And I gave her a bunch of names, and she goes, "No way." And I said, "No way what?" And she goes, "That is their name." And I said, "Okay, so what you going to do with it? You already knew their name." "Well, I was just wondering if you could do it." I said, "I already told you I could do it, but, it sort of bores me at times. So what's the big deal?" And she goes, "Well, what can you predict for him?" I said, "He's dying soon." "No, he's not." I said, "Is he a mega smoker?" Yeah. I mean, people don't want to hear the negativity. So a lot of times, be careful what you ask for.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, Peter Marks, is a Connecticut astrologer, and he called me the other day regarding one of his clients, and he said, "Is she okay?" And I knew right away she wasn't okay. And I was like, well, she'll survive. So even if she gets cancer, she's going to survive. But her marriage is getting her sick. So it's one of those where time to go. It's not like Denise and Paul.
I say that all the time. This marriage
She
is
just
getting
said it's
me
not
6
like.
time to go.
Did you hear her? She said it's not like us. Did you hear that?
Yeah, but I'm saying it is like I'm saying
No,
all
no.
I get is bad vibes from us.
Ginette, can you just give me a rough date that I should double Denise's life insurance? Just a rough idea.
You know, how about quite the
Man.
opposite, Paul?
Man.
How about quite the opposite? Because I'm telling you, you're going long before me.
Please, God, take me now.
Fine.
Please take me.
I can
Yeah,
put in a request. You want me to put in a request? I talk to the higher ones all the time.
Yeah, all right.
I'll put in a request for you.
Yeah, okay.
Now, Ginette, do you get like
By a car
premonitions
accident,
about?
too.
Do you get premonitions about mundane things? Like if you go to a restaurant, do you get a vision of, hey man, these people aren't very sanitary, or I don't know
do.
what it might be.
I actually do. I really do. I hate to say that. Sometimes they're so bad. I bet Denise gets it too. And you get ready to walk in the door and something hits you in your head and you say, "I'm gonna
Nah, I don't want to eat here.
It's funny because every time I go into a restaurant, I get a premonition that they're only going to get a 10% tip.
Oh my god.
You're a dirty dog. Okay, so now I have a premonition called Paul's a pig.
Yeah.
So
So what are you talking about? It's only a shitty tip. What's going on?
that's horrible. 10%. People, that's how they make a living. Oh my God, that's.
See, I come
that's the
from
worst.
a country that you only the service charge is included in the bill when you go to a restaurant in England. So they get paid for the service charge. So you only give them a tip if they do something really exceptional. I do this whole joke. I do this whole joke about how you go to the buffet and all they do is bring you a glass of water, but then Denise wants to give them 18% for that. I'm like, what are you talking about? 18%.
Well, I mean, you have to remember, England and New York are very, very. Good God, it's expensive to live there. For God's sake, you want to be kind to people. It's good to be kind to people. It's a good feeling. Wake up, Paul.
All right, Ginette, so tell me the lottery. Text me the lottery numbers, and I promise I'll spend half of it on tips. Does that sound like a deal?
No.
There you go.
Not a
See?
deal.
It would be
It's-
more
it's-
saying that you'll give her a good tip.
I was gonna say.
I don't understand though. If you get the lottery numbers, why don't you just do the lottery numbers and be done with this whole thing?
I do it every once in a while, but I haven't really. My friend Peter Marks and I play with it every once in a while, the lottery numbers, And, you know, Peter's amazing. He goes to the casinos and can win 10 or 15 grand in a night. Or he has a gambling process or protocol. And he's like, well, if you do it, then you know, because you pay him like $200-300, and he'll say, go to this casino at this time and this date, and you're going to win money. And I had a client call him, and he won money. And some of us can just do it automatically. Some of us, you know, you have to really focus and work on it. I have been married for about 23, almost 24 years. I will tell you, I've never seen my children interrupt me from doing the lottery more than other children. My kids are very much, mommy, 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 and they're turning 18 and 21. So it's really hard for me to do the lottery till they go to college in August. And once they're gone, I will be so happy. I'll be like, break time. Now it's time to focus.
Well, and when
So
they
there's
go to
my answer.
college, you're desperately going to need that lottery money too. So it's good timing.
Well, actually, we've already saved up enough for 3 years.
Oh, okay. And they
Yeah,
may have
so now-
scholarships for all I know, but just college is expensive was my point.
Yeah, no, we saved, I think we saved, what, $60,000 per girl so far. So they don't have to pay out of pocket. And hell yeah, it's horrible. The second daughter is getting a lot more scholarships. So, you know, that's great. But now she wants to go to law school after her, you know,
Oh, boy.
graduating.
Oh,
But
boy.
that's okay.
You
We
better
told
play
her
some
she
more
was
lottery
gonna-
tickets if you're going to go to law school.
Oh, hell yeah.
College,
Well, I'm-
college is the French word for hemorrhage money. And you know, I'm old. So when I went to college, I mean, I thought it was expensive, but compared to now, wow, it's just it's crazy.
Yeah.
When Tom went to college, you know, the slate and the chalk was so expensive. I'm try-
And the sundial.
yeah. Tom didn't even show up for school when the clouds were over the top. You couldn't see what
Yeah,
time it
man.
was for the alarm.
Yeah, I had
That's what
my first class every day was at VII o'clock. It was
Yeah.
terrible.
Jesus. Okay, there you go. Now we're getting worried about Tom. Denise, are you feeling okay there, honey? Surrounded by people that have a lot of
Insane?
issues?
Well, Tom is actually
Insane, not stable, off the rocker.
Tom is
Yeah,
actually
it's
in,
like living in insanity.
Tom is
trust
in
me.
Utah. He's not here, so.
Yeah.
But the wonders of modern
Oh, that's
technology.
just funny.
Yeah. Tom's saying Tom is old, but his social security number is 1.
Yep.
That don't
Single
gag.
digits.
He knew Elliot Ness. Okay, so now
Yeah.
that we know all this, we're going to be okay. So
I knew
Tom,
Elliot
I have a-
Ness when he was touchable.
Yeah, there you go. I was going to say, Tom, are you looking around for a new job? Because I see you need a nice new income.
Nope.
You have a great voice, so you need to look for a new job.
No, yeah.
I think Tom's always
I
looking
don't
for a
know-
new
I don't
job.
know- I don't know how to answer that. I've had the sort of the same job remotely for about 9 years now. And as everybody listens to this show knows, I used to work for CBS News Radio, and I have a gig now that I'm being promoted at that particular place.
Yeah,
coming
Tom
up
is
in
Tom
about
is
3 months.
now cutting lettuce. Next year he'll be doing fries, and that's
Yeah.
when the big money starts rolling
Yeah,
in.
exactly. I'm getting a new name tag. They may make me work the drive-through a little bit first, but
You want those tips.
yeah,
More than-
exactly.
Better hope I don't come through. No tips for you, Tom.
Yeah, Paul's
Oh, we
Paul's
already
tips.
know that.
Yeah, Paul's tips are like, don't date the help.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, you know what they're doing? They're probably throwing money at Paul to get the hell out of the drive-through.
You see, did you see how old Tom is? He just called it the help.
The help, yeah. Date the help.
Ooh, that does date him.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
We
My
didn't call
dad
it.
says-
Well,
Back in the day, the help
nobody-
didn't get paid. You know what I'm saying? So,
It does date me, and that's fine since
Yeah.
no one else is dating me.
yeah.
Well, you know, they probably don't want to date a rock, you know, just
Yeah,
or guy
exactly.
in a rocking chair, you know.
Exactly.
You know, that's okay. You can still have fun with life, you know. It's still an
Well,
adventure.
when I see Denise and Paul's relationship, you know, being single is somewhat
Tom,
of a
you don't know
pleasure.
how I wish I was single. I look at my life and I evaluate and I say to myself all the time, why me?
I predict.
And then I get this thing that says that says to me, like,
She looks like
maybe
a
I
bank,
did something in the wrong
bank
life,
balance.
either that or because I'm such a saint. Okay, because I'm such a saint.
I have a premonition
Okay,
that Tom Gulley's
that
going to
this
die
is- This
with
is
a
like
Tom Gulley clock falling off a wall, smashing into him.
God
Exactly.
knew that I'm probably the only one who's able to put up with this person.
Oh, right then.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's like a stray dog. You know, nobody's going to want it. 'cause
Aye.
He's pitiful.
Well, he's definitely a stray dog.
Robert Christian
know.
just entering the chat room.
Oh, God.
So what do you think, over the years, people with your abilities have had like different ways of reaching the public? Are you finding like the internet is a great new source of reaching people, or shows like this one? What's the most common way that people actually get to connect with you?
You know, right now I'm having a focus on doing a lot of New York radio shows because I'm going to be doing some work up north. That's the plan. So radio shows, it used to be when I did DC shows, I would get 300 calls for appointments. With these shows, I'll get one, and then I'll of course get emails. Can you help me, for a freebie? No, I can't, Been there, done that. I'm not doing it anymore.
Right.
There's a lot of great students out there that'll work for you for free for the experience. I am on Twitter. I have a website saying reachginette.com, and my name is Italian, so it's reach, R-E-A-C-H, meaning like reach out and touch somebody.
Sure.
And then it's Ginette, Ginette, .com. And how does it go? People look at it, and I think I'm intimidating. Some people are very intimidated by me and my work. I can do some things to people if they piss me off, but I typically don't do that unless I really need to. But a lot of people call and say, so what about this or what about that? I think people have a little bit of a fear factor with my work because I can find missing people, which is factual, or should I say black and white. When I do work, if I don't want the job and I think an astrologer will help them, I send people to Peter Marks in Connecticut. So for example, I had a woman call me from, literally one of the foreign, one of the Czech countries. And she goes, I want you to do this homicide, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no. And I said, you need an astrologer. And, so it's not that I don't want to do the work. It's just an astrologer will be more factual on specifics. I can be very factual, but she was sort of a challenge. And so I'll take on sometimes I'll take on something I really love versus something stupid. And so how is social media? I have a Facebook page. It's hard to get into, so I tell people to pull up my dad, Louis Matacia. So I typically inform people if I'm on radio or TV or I'm doing something. I've been a little quiet lately because I am getting over breast cancer and because my kid is about to graduate high school. So, my plate is full. So I tell people, if you want to get me, I can give out my number if you guys want me to give out my number.
It's up to you. You can do whatever you want to do.
I can do whatever I want. Thank you, Paul.
Yes.
So you can plug away.
Yes,
plug away.
Plug away. Okay, so my cell phone, not tonight. Don't call tonight. So my cell phone is area code 571-358-1444. Again, it's 571-358-1444. And I'm in Virginia, but I can do parties and scare people. I can do teach people how to do dream incubation and learn stuff and do their own lottery numbers. I can refer you to Peter Marks, who does astrology in Connecticut. I do all sorts of fun stuff. I love the treasure work. That's the most fun. The good is treasure work. The bad is challenging clients, and the ugly is missing persons.
I got to ask a question about treasure. Is this something specific these people are looking for, or do they just say, hey, I need to find something good, in my town? Can we go look for something? Is it vague, or is it actually something they're looking for specifically?
It's everything. It's you'd be surprised. It's everything. I had a couple of guys call me. They were going to go work on a job in North Carolina, and they had like 20 acres. And I said, you only have one item on that property, and, you know, it's a very small amount of gold. And they were going for Civil War gold. And I said, look, I'm going to tell you honestly, I found some Al Capone buried treasure, and they found it, and they were shocked. And I said, you know, when I find treasure, my teeth go crazy. And I said, my teeth aren't going crazy. So the pattern is not there. So I'm going to say it's not there. No, we know for a fact it's there. I said, it's not there. So 3 days later, they call me back, and I said, okay, you didn't find it, did you? And they didn't. And they go, okay, so where is this one item? And I said, I need to find a landmark on the property. So in other words, let's say you're sitting at 20 acres. And I said, you guys feel like you're sitting on a gravel road? Yes, we are. And I said, is there a pole there, like a landmark, like a county pole, because it's, you know, for some kind of utility? They said, yes. I said, okay, stand right there, face true north, and I want you to take your metal detector to the 330 degrees and walk 15 to 30 feet. When you get to 30 feet, do a radius of about 5 feet, and there's something right there. And they found, the only thing they found on the property was a gold ring right there, and it was from 1921, I think, and it was a wedding band. That's all they found. They did the whole property. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah, I can be wrong sometimes. I confess up to that. Yeah, I can be wrong. I'm not perfect. I had a guy out of Montana call, and he wants me to find something for him. Similar thing, Civil War gold, and he goes, it's here. Okay, pay me. I'll tell you whether it is or isn't.
What about something that was stolen from somebody?
I want to know where the key to Denise's chastity belt went. I've been looking for that for a while lately. So.
I think it's thrown out.
Yeah, I think I do.
You know, but you're very lucky to make sure it's thrown out. So, I'm sorry, Denise. He knocked me off track there.
Yeah,
so
no. I was saying, like, say something was stolen from you, right? Like a piece of jewelry that was stolen from you. Are you able to help locate it?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you a bad example of what happened to me one time. A guy from D.C., like a senator's aide, asked me to find his stolen goods. And I said, well, honestly, it feels like they're right here, but they won't be there for long. If you don't go quickly, the key factor is it could be some guy stole it, broke into your house, stole it, and he's selling it right there on the corner. But he's bebopping around town. So the problem is you have to catch him between these times and so forth, but he's right there. And so 2 weeks later, I run into him. He's totally loaded. He goes, you know, starts calling me an effing liar and all this stuff. And I said, and it was so strong that guy was right there. And it turns out I said, this is where you want to be. And you have to do the word radius. And of course, people don't pay attention. Mm-hmm. And right where it was a driveway and a townhouse. You know, DC has townhouses, you know, just like New York, you have those, whatever you call them. And he goes, I went there. It was an empty lot. Okay, what's next to the empty lot? A building? Yeah, but you didn't say that. You said the right there. I said, okay, but you have to think outside the box. The empty lot took you to probably where somebody's selling your stuff, and you waited a week before you were supposed to go right away. You didn't go right away. And he goes, yeah, but I spent $150. I said, and you make $250,000 and you're bitching about $150 to pay me for my time? So, you know, it's the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to some work. It just is what it is, and you have to know how to talk to these people. I told the guy, go right away. No, I'll go tomorrow. I didn't say go tomorrow. I said go right now and drive by there and see if he's there. And if he's not there, you got to start monitoring it. Well, what senator aide in their right mind is going to sit down the street and watch and see if this guy has his stolen goods? He's not going to do it because he's going to put in a huge claim for $50,000 for his speakers that were only $5,000 and get his money back. So, voila. You know?
Do you offer any kind of money back guarantee on that stuff?
No. No, I don't. do you pay for your own groceries, Paul?
No.
No, I
No,
pay
you're
all.
right,
I pay. I pay all the other bills in this house, and we're not going to get started on
Oh,
that.
you
It'll be another hour of this show.
Well, there you go. So no.
Well,
you're paying for my
lawyers don't give a money back guarantee. They don't.
I was just asking.
Yeah. I mean, it's.
No, but Now I will tell you, if I'm doing a water well and I feel really good about it, I'll tell people I'll find you 3 water wells on your property, and I charge this amount of money, and if none of them show up, they get they get certain monies back. I mean, because some of the people that call here, they want me to drive 4 hours to do their water well, and which is crazy. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people
know that there's a
don't
well on their property.
No, it's just. I guess she finds
Like
it.
we have a well in our backyard, right?
Actually,
Yeah,
it's
but see,
under
here's
the house.
what's up.
Actually.
Yeah, but see what happened around here in Virginia. We had an earthquake, and it screwed up the piping for the water well.
Oh, gotcha.
So because of that, a lot of these people, when I say they don't have water, they don't have water. I mean, their water wells were shifted so far, they'd have to either new water well, and there's another process you can do too, which is really cool. But a lot of these people, they don't want to pay a dowser. They want to pay $50. They think, oh, your time's worth $50.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's not. You're talking driving 4 hours up, spending at least 2 hours on the property, flagging the property, using a pendulum, like a survey pendulum, to pinpoint the site exactly and say, right here's where you want to put your drill rig, and here's where you want to put, the hole. And then you find them 3 spots, because you can't always put a drill rig on an unstable environment. I mean, it's very complicated. It's no different than a crime case. Pay attention.
Now, when you do this dowsing, I remember when I was a kid, there was this thing where there was a show on TV about it, right? Where you had like two like right angular pieces of wire, one in each hand, and as you're walking around, when they found the water, the wires crossed. Is that the technique you guys used?
My dad was the one who invented the wires. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember when I was a kid.
It used to be a fork and stick. Do you remember that? It used to be a fork and stick.
Yeah. It used to be like a wishbone kind of stick that people would search for, really, and they would follow the sort of the pole of the stick, and when they got to the water, it would force their hands straight down. Right, okay. Toward where the water.
See, what happens is, in reality, because people are like, I don't know how it works. Oh, for God's sake, it's real simple. Your fingers have the largest quantity of nerves in the human body. The second place is in your sciatic nerve. So what happens is, it's like a little tunnel that goes from your fingertips to your brain, to the sciatic nerve, and back, almost like a computer. And it pulsates. So when you get to the water, it pushes the forked stick down, and the forked stick typically is a specific kind of stick, and it goes toward the water, and that's how it works. But with the iron rods, it pulsates, and all of a sudden it can cross, meaning yes, or if you have a different pattern, it opens up, meaning yes. Your choice. You get to pick what works for you. I personally like one stick, and I do the dowsing before I get there. I do it. I love map dowsing. I find it a lot easier.
They used to make
you guys have a lot of. Go ahead.
Well, they used to make a big deal on a lot of old TV shows and stuff about a guy that knew how to find just the perfect, dowsing piece of wood. Had to be a certain kind of piece of wood, had to be a certain length and everything. And these guys were sort of known for their expertise at that. The other thing is water has an electromagnetic quality to it, especially running water. I mean, I worked in the pool service, and if we had a broken pipe underneath the ground, we actually had a magnetized piece of metal on a swivel, and we could sort of walk through the yard and find out where that water was flowing. So, I mean, there's a lot of properties involved there. And lastly, when I was a news anchor for CBS News Radio, I did give a money-back guarantee that if there were no news on a certain day, then I gave them the money back. Never, ever had to give a cent back, though.
But you're always giving them news.
There was always news, yes. It was a pretty safe bet. But so you do a mapping thing now. Do you know anything? do you study geology and stuff? And are you attuned to, this area's lower in elevation than that area and things of that nature?
Well,
Or is it
well,
all psychic premonition?
no. I was lucky. My dad was a land surveyor by trade,
Oh, okay.
and I also I was born in Charlottesville, which was the home of Thomas Jefferson. So I had a lot of interest in geology and surveying and topography. And so I would study it just because I had to do surveying with my dad when I was a kid. It's called child slave labor. And, so we would have to learn all this stuff when I was a kid and go out and do the work. But I did want to be a geologist. Didn't work. And, I was also interested in, astrophysics, which I thought was really cool. So, I study a lot of stuff all the time, anything to do with the land. And my favorite stuff right now is just watching LiDAR work. I mean, Josh Gates has got LiDAR all over the place, which I think is super cool. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that some of the psychics out here are going to be replaced by LiDAR. So you better make yourself valuable quickly, because you can only find so many Tom, Dick, and Harrys for some woman or man, and then all of a sudden they go, well, do you want to find the treasure? No, we're going to use LiDAR. Thank you. Piss off. But how much is LiDAR? $2,000 a day or something? So a psychic would be a better, cheaper bet, and then the men have these really great pieces of metal detectors that are really awesome. I mean, for example, you're in Utah, Tom. You guys have got a lot of treasure that I just got a call about 5 treasures in Utah. So, I mean, for the last 2 years. So. Oh,
yeah. It's ultra remote. People have been around here for hundreds of years. I live in a 2,500 square mile area with 2,400 people. A lot of it's never traversed. I mean, it's so, when they settled the place, maybe something was left. I mean, they're finding things all the time out here. I mean, they find bones from people that are like 40 years old, of guys that just wandered out in the wilderness or got lost or ran out of water or whatever, that nobody's even happened upon them and stuff. So, yeah. And incidentally, water, big deal out here. Big deal out here, because all of the water comes off of mountain snow melts. There's not giant untapped amounts of water under the ground per se. So yeah, that's a big deal. Any water that isn't an aquifer or any sort of geological structure like that is super valuable. Super valuable.
Yeah, I just had a couple calls from a couple of I don't want to call them pot dealers, but you know what I'm talking about, guys that are doing hemp farms and that kind of thing, and they need a lot of water for their sprinkler system for the pot or the hemp farms. And I said, yeah, I can find it. And they go, can you guarantee it? I said, well, you're paying for flight and you're paying for my time there. Anything above that, if you want me to guarantee it, I will. But you have to prove to me there's no damn drill there that doesn't find it. Because some drillers will go out. I have a terrible story to tell you. I had a guy call me who was a real pig. And he called me and he said, can you find me water? And I said, you already have water. And he goes, you sure? And I said, yeah. And I said, how deep did you have the driller go? And he goes, he went 900 feet. I said, who does that? You know what he's doing? He's going so deep. He's blocking the water from coming into the water well. I was like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So what his water well is like $40,000. And so the first initial meeting on the phone was $150. It took me 3 months to get the $150 from him. And I was like, well, that's why you don't have water. You don't.
Karma.
And I said, he goes, can you help me find my water? And I said, yeah, you have to prepay me. Haven't heard a word from the guy again.
Yeah, I bet.
Said, I'm not going to drive 4 hours where you're going to pay me my money, because when I get there, you're not going to be there. You're just going to expect me to find the water well, mark it. You're not going to pay me. You're trying to screw me over $150?
This just in. How did you not know he wasn't going to pay you?
Oh, I had a feeling he wasn't. You want me to tell you why I think he wasn't going to pay me? Because he's an accountant.
Oh, there you go.
Accountants don't. I mean, yeah, they take
in New York we have a different word for accountant, but
what?
It's an ethnicity.
Oh man, Paul.
Oh, you can't go there. That's not fair.
I'm not. I'm being nice. It's
Yeah. No, you can't. Yeah. Yeah. In my business, everybody's the same across the board. I mean, I've met famous people, and I was like, so what? They put their pants on the same way everybody else does. Who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, they're just people. I mean, most of the people are pretty nice to me. Then you have people who come out and lie and say stuff about me. I was like, no, that didn't happen. You can say whatever you want to say, whatever makes you feel better, So that's why you have to be careful. It's like your business. I'm sure you get trolls on your business.
Tom lives for those people. Tom gets more than I do. But he advertises on his show telling him to call that. That's the worst part of it. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, he
I do.
says controversy.
I say trolls welcome. My title card of my show says trolls welcome, because if I'm gonna get them,
tell Michael to ask a question.
Then I'm gonna welcome them, and I'm gonna get the entertainment value about them. But they follow me to this show. They follow me everywhere, and at a certain point, there's so much inaccurate information that now nobody believes anything any of the trolls say. It's worked in my favor. I'm
so disappointed about that. So.
I know. Paul liked it.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Paul liked it better when they were actually having some effect. But now, well, I know I had 400 comments on my show today, and probably half of them were from trolls.
Well,
I'm going to go with 90%, but.
I mean, I'm the kind of person who I go in, and if I get a raw burger, I call you and say, hey, listen, you owe me a new sandwich because the one I got was raw. Or I'm the kind of person who writes a letter to the local steakhouse. Hey, that was the worst steak I ever had, and I spent $120. What's going on with your people?
Yeah.
Or your chef? I don't waste my time on trolling on radio or anything. I would rather get the news as best as I can get it.
Right.
So I appreciate your news there, Tom. Paul, on the other hand, we got to take it very slow and easy. And
do you have any premonitions for Paul?
Yeah, it's called sit down and shush.
There you go.
No. Do I have a premonition? I'm not getting anything at the moment, but.
Okay, somebody had asked us, one of our viewers had asked us, when you get a premonition, what does that mean? Like.
It means that she sees something that's going to happen in the future. That's what a premonition means.
That's the definition. He's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody is different. I mean, I could be sitting in the booth with you guys, and I start getting a bunch of names thrown at me, but you don't want that. You want to focus in on one topic and then get the information that is connected to.
I actually get premonitions. Normally what happens is most nights Denise doesn't go near me, but whenever she needs money, I get a premonition, and she rolls over and says, "Hey, Paul, what's up?"
I don't think so. I think
we all.
I think that's called wishful thinking.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah, because that ain't how it happens. It's more like quite the opposite. You roll over
What's the
to
opposite?
me. The opposite. You roll over to me, look at me, and go, "So, baby, you want to give me some?" And I just look at you, and I'm like, "No."
It's money he wants. Yeah, he doesn't want the fun part of it. You have to work for it, Paul.
Yeah, exactly.
No, he doesn't know how to work for it. I tell him that all the time. I'm like, you've lost your mojo.
Denise brings all her milkshake to the yard. That's all I'm saying.
Whatever. Anyway, Michael also has a question. Michael's been
I've got his
watching
answer.
us on the feed,
It's in the future, and his name is John.
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't have my feed just went away.
All right, hold on. Let's see.
Ask Michael.
No, he said he wished he could ask a question, but he hasn't asked it yet in the feed.
Well, I told him if he wants to call in, he can call in.
He should call in.
The number's on the screen.
609-891-8391. Make it quick, though. Cause,
yeah, I would agree. I would agree there. I haven't eaten dinner, so make it quick so I can go get something.
Hey, can I ask you a question? You said that you write in if you get bad service or whatever. I do the same thing, but I also, if they do a really good job, I'm the first person to write them or call them. I mean, banks and restaurants and manufacturers.
You're the only person on the whole of Yelp that does that, Tom.
I have called. I got a bad office chair one time, and I needed them to send me a new part, and they just sent me a brand new. And I called and complimented them. You would have thought I was calling from Mars. The way these you're calling to compliment us. Do you do that as well?
Yes, and I'll tell you 2 easy stories. This is true fact. I was at Burlington Coat, and
I love that place.
I was trying to buy graduation frames, picture frames,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them didn't have a lot of stuff doesn't have price. A lot of stores don't have price tags. I mean, my kids love Target, but Jesus Christ, I hate going there. They don't have goddamn price tags. Excuse my language. They do not have price tags. It drives you crazy. It's like, where's the damn price tag? And then so I'm sorry. It pushes me over to Burlington Coat. So I go to Burlington Coat, and this girl, I don't know what the hell's going on with her. She was so generous with her time. She goes, "Give me that. I'll go get a price." She comes back and she goes, "Oh, that was on sale." I was like, "I love you." I said, "How much is it?" I swear to God, she goes, $6.
Awesome.
I said, that's painful. So I'm gonna write into Burlington Coat. Still love you guys. I mean.
Yeah,
so
I love them.
Yeah,
And Ginette has 9 coats, by the way, just so you know, $6 each.
No, I don't. No, actually, I don't.
Michael Smith. Sorry, Michael Smith, you're on the line, buddy, with Ginette. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's up? Long time. I had to pull over. I just left Jersey. Had to pull over.
Oh, I thought you said you got pulled over because Michael is a person. Michael is a person of color, so the chances of him getting pulled over are staggeringly higher than.
Well, they don't pull people over here in Philly anymore. So I don't have to worry about that.
So Michael, what is your question for Ginette?
I'm trying to think. Oh man,
I forgot your question.
Michael, the answer is he's 35, and you're going to meet him in 2 years. And his name's Dave.
I'm 30. No.
Take a deep breath, because I know you're nervous.
Just
relax.
You
do this to me all the time when you and I talk. It'll come to you.
Yeah. I'm trying to ask if I have a futuristic question, or I guess about my career-wise and stuff. I've been on disability for a while.
I was going to say disability is not a career, unlike what they teach you in the hood.
God, Paul. God.
Okay, we cannot take Paul anywhere. Just be sure and lock him in the house at night. Michael, I'll tell you what, disability sucks, but some people need it, like you. And so I got to be honest with you. Honestly, I think your first step is to go. I don't take this the wrong way, but I think you're procrastinating.
There you go.
But I think you need to. I'm going to say this to you in a nice way. Have you had your thyroid checked? Because you need to go check your thyroid. People don't realize that the thyroid can actually cause procrastination. ADD can cause procrastination, and so it's almost like you're out of your sorts. And so you're feeling like a little down, but not depressed and anxious. It's your damn thyroid. Go get it checked. And I think that the problem is, I'm hearing the September timeframe. Why is it so far off? Because basically, procrastination is, you're one of those where you're picky, and I think that it's like, I would rather have this or have that. And I think
I know I have trouble deciding.
Yeah, obviously, you couldn't even come up with a question.
But that's thyroid. That could be your thyroid.
And he is a big guy, and you have been struggling with your weight.
I'm just interested. I'm just interested to know how Michael only has one leg. How is that procrastinating?
He does not have one leg. You keep it up, you're going to have no legs. You're not going to have a middle one.
He's not.
Because my anxiety is like, I used to be able to drive. I have a fear of driving over certain bridges now. And
that's an actual that is an actual effect on the brain, and honestly, it can be from the thyroid.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can
That's
get people
me.
to help you with that.
What?
Honestly, when the thyroid is not functioning properly, or one of those glands right there, which is in the front neck, it could, so many things happen. It's a delay factor, an anxiety factor. It can cause a problem with going over bridges. I know it's a phobia, but it's an actual phobia. And if you're overweight, I'm going to say this to you in a nice way. They have some great medications out there like Plexus. They have some great medications like, I'll tell you, are you still single, Michael?
Yes.
Okay, so you know what? They have Weight Watchers and groups that get together for support. If you don't get the support, you're going to say to yourself, why should I do this? It's almost like a fatalistic type of attitude, and that's partial thyroid. So I hate to say this, get off your ass and go get your thyroid checked.
Yeah, Michael has trouble going over. Michael has trouble going over bridges to the employment office. So that's a problem right there.
Yeah, well, you know what? You got to start somewhere else, and I think go ahead and apply everywhere, because you know what? You're the one who's blaming yourself. Just get your butt out there and apply. Even
And
if
you
it's
got trouble
customer
going over. And Paul has trouble going over bridges to get penis enlargement medication. So.
Yeah, there you go. I don't need to go across this bridge. Yeah, and you know they have Michael. They have this medication for thyroid problem. It's called salad.
All right, Michael.
Ginette, what was the name of the medication you said for the?
There's a diet medication and groups that get together, and it's a new product on the market. It's called Plexus, Plexis, I think, or Plexis. But there's also another thing for you to keep in mind is there's also it's a yoga for people that yoga is phenomenal for people that it's called, oh God, what is it called?
I don't want to see big people in yoga pants. I'm just saying.
Shut up, Paul.
Yeah, really?
Oh my God.
Big people wearing spandex is something that's very common, especially in the African American community. I don't know what the fuck's going on.
I don't believe it.
I'm gonna look it up on my phone now. I can't. Okay, I can't even think straight with Paul's jokes.
Yeah, he needs to do these jokes on stand-up. I never hear him do.
It's not Pilates, is it?
You know what? That's the good thing. He needs to go by himself in front of a crowd without Denise, because she can look at him with evil eyes, saying she's saying something to him, and he knows telepathically she's right.
I do that now. Michael saw me do stand-up. It's ironic. Michael lives,
Said he's not. Said you're not funny.
Michael said I was good. So I don't know, and he also saw me back in the day when I was just starting too. But Michael doesn't even live near me, and he's seen me 50% as much as my wife's seen me do stand-up. So what does that tell you?
Someone's got to stay home.
Yeah, I went to Philly and did a show. I'm going to Delaware to do a show, Michael, in like 3 weeks.
Oh, what part?
I want to say Wilmington, but I don't remember.
Okay, well,
I'll
this
send you the
show's not
info.
about you. This show is about
Anyway, so
Ginette.
back to Michael.
We have
Michael
to start
Michael
ending
needs to
this
check
show.
out that medication / diet thing called Plexus, right?
Yeah,
That's what you said.
it's not medication, but you know what my theory is? Check your thyroid first, bingo, and then what I would say is there's a new product by someone, and it's a yoga. It's like dancing and yoga at the same time, and it's called PIYO, PIYO. And for people that have got too much weight on them, you do something 15 minutes a day, every day, and before you know it, you've lost 50 pounds. And you know what? It's not always about what you intake. It's the actual exercise. So unfortunately,
you go to the
gotta
gym a
get
lot
started.
too, so you're on the right track.
And I go to the gym all the time. It's just the eating thing.
Well, how many times have I told you that what you're doing is wrong?
The problem is
we'll talk, and you're telling me, "Oh, I'm about to go get myself a burger," and it's late at night.
The problem
and I told
is-
you, do not eat after a certain time.
The problem is when Michael says he's going to gym, it's actually his friend Jim's house. So.
Yeah, there you go. And he's probably having 2 beers, maybe 10. But you know what, Michael? You have to change your whole lifestyle, and it's a lifestyle. If you want to get laid, you're going to change your lifestyle. I don't mean to be rude, but that's the fact. And if you want a girlfriend, it's time to change the fact. Your girlfriend comes in the door in November, and I don't think
he
it's
wants
this
a
year.
boyfriend.
Yeah, we figured that out.
He wants a boyfriend?
Yes, Michael's gay.
Which I haven't messed around
Yeah,
in a long time anyway. So.
Well, not till November.
So before September, you got to start doing what she said, and then in November, Mr. Right's going to show up. That's pretty much what she's getting at. So
I did not say Mr. Right. There's a person coming in November, and there's a person coming in March 8th of next year. And
Mr. Right now.
March. No, I said next March. Next March.
March 8th.
March 8th. Write that down.
Yeah,
next
like
year.
Yeah, it feels like March 8th. I don't know why I want to say that, but I get a couple initials, but so it feels like a P or a T. But you know what? Just take your freaking time. First of all, if you go to the gym, not just JIM's house, but Payo is yoga with dancing. Go do it. Have fun. What the hell? And
I'll go with him.
Payo.
Come down this way. We'll do it together.
And Michael, just to be clear, that's not apple Payo.
Now, Payo, you don't need any equipment, do you?
Yoga.
I gotta look it up.
You might need what do they unroll, a little mat or something? I mean, Michael, here's the thing about eating right and exercising. Once you start, it's hard to stop. Once you stop, it's hard to start. If you do it every day for 2 weeks, you'll start to look forward to it. The first 2 weeks sometimes are kind of rough. But if you really discipline yourself for 2 weeks, I swear to you, you will start to look forward to your daily workout regimen and whatever diet you
Michael's always going to the Y and swimming and shit, so he's halfway there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm having a hot
let me
flash.
say one more thing. Yeah, I'm going to say, thank you for sharing, Denise.
Yeah.
Let me just say one thing to you, Michael. There is a trick to some of this food on the market. They do have chemicals in it for you to crave more food. I did a taste test one day because I saw a TV show where it was cereal, and they had put some stuff in the cereal. And you don't want to just have a bowl of a cereal. You want to have a second bowl, which I didn't have the second bowl, but I was craving the second bowl. And I said, well, there's your clue. There's your sign. So you have to be very careful if the food has too many chemicals in it.
Yeah. Well,
Very
they
true.
did it on purpose to make you addicted to it.
Mm.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I was a kid, I remember, what is it? I'm not as old as Tom, but we had all sorts of what?
Tom's just mouthing what the F.
Puffed rice and stuff like that. It was so addictive. It was terrible. All right. So listen.
Yeah, I have a.
Yeah,
said
she has to get going, Michael.
I'll ask you a question real quick.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I thought
you and Charles. You know where Waynesboro is? I have a friend in Waynesboro.
I do.
Virginia.
I do.
All right, she doesn't care about your friend, Michael. So
I was just saying, local. She's close to them.
Not that close.
All right, thanks a lot, Ginette, for your advice and stuff. Appreciate it.
Michael, you're gonna call back on March 9th and tell us what happens, right?
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, do it. I'm fine with it. I'm very good with astrology. If not, Peter Marks is up your way too.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm gonna get some kind of a reading.
Yeah.
I hear you.
The only thing Denise likes to be read is a credit card machine.
Shut up,
Oh
Paul.
my God.
You don't even pay my bills. I do.
I pay enough.
All right, folks. Is there anything else?
Ginette, did you want to give out your website and stuff again so everybody can, any number and all that stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, my website is reachginette, GINETTE.com. That's really easy. And then my telephone number, not for tonight, thank you very much, is 571-358-1444. Okay?
Serious calls only, folks.
Yeah, if you're a troll, don't bother. And if you are a troll and you bug me, I will turn you over to the police because I enjoy that. So, yep, and don't call tonight. So, all right, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. Michael,
thank you
it was
so
nice to
much.
meet
Thanks a
you.
lot, Ginette. It's been a lot of fun. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, bye, Tom.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. All right.
Take care,
So
Ginette.
that was Ginette. Very, very interesting guest. I thought, Tom, what did you think?
She was great. She had a great sense of humor, and she was wonderful.
Yeah, I
really
enjoyed
great
this.
guest. I thought it was interesting that she kept apologizing for like saying kicking ass at the start of the show. And I almost said that is the gentlest profanity ever uttered on this program. But by the end, she loosened right up. So I thought she was wonderful. I thought she had a really great outlook, and I thought it was a blast. And she connected with Denise. I haven't seen Denise this engaged in the show in a long time. It was a subject Denise was into.
Exactly.
It was very, very cool. And
it's Denise's job to get the next guest for the show.
Denise,
that's the gauntlet I'm throwing out. And I don't want to talk to one of her friends she goes to the fucking gym with or eat salad with.
It sounds like Denise,
a celebrity,
feels like she may have some abilities in that area. And I knew the psychic that was on my show all the time, she actually would help regular everyday people develop any abilities that they might have.
See, that's what I'm interested in. And I might actually look for somebody who either teaches or actually, you know what? I do have somebody. And it all kind of like is connected with this. I had a friend who lived in our town and she moved away and she is into like crystals and stuff. And lately we just like kind of like reconnected and started talking. And she has sent me, because I started getting into crystals and, you know, like self-healing and stuff like that. And she does crossovers.
I do crosswords. Is that similar?
And I had told her, and I would actually like to bring her. I would like to bring her
All for Tom's
onto the
facial
show,
reactions.
and have her talk about her experiences with crossing over. She also knows when there is a spirit, you know,
crossing
present
the Rainbow Bridge
and all. So yeah,
okay.
I would like to bring Jennifer in.
All right.
She doesn't live in this state, but you know what? We could do it with Skype, just like we did Ginette.
Yeah. Well, she just called on the phone. Same thing.
Well, that's the same thing.
It's better
like
with
she
video,
can either
though.
call in or I don't know if she. I'm sure
It's
Ginette
free.
has
Skype
got.
is free. All you gotta do is install it on your computer or your phone. Skype to Skype is free. If fucking Tom Gulley can do it, anyone can.
But I bought a lot of my crystals and stuff like that from her. Because I believe in that too, and getting rid of like negativity.
Michael Smith just said the call dropped, and I'm like, no, it didn't. I just
and then I sage the house and all.
Dropped
in fact,
on purpose.
Yeah.
Like whenever I can feel a lot of tension and negativity and just like animosity in the house, like I sage the house and open up the windows and
when
try
Denise
to get
feels animosity in the house, she just goes out and it goes away.
No, usually I get away from it and I go out. That's from you. You bring a lot of negative energy in this house.
They got those homeopathic candles now that are scented and stuff too. You can burn as well as sage.
Well, I'm into a lot of the oils, like
Michael
lavender.
Smith has some homosexual candles.
Like that's the one thing. Like my daughters, they know that like I'm into all of this kind of stuff, so they always like I'm huge into like aromatherapy.
With the Nag Champa.
When she was talking about the guy that got some shit stolen and he was supposed to go to the house and find it. Remember that part of the story?
Yeah,
Dude, I was like, I'm like that. I live on a street where everybody in the street is white except for this one family, and my kid's bike got stolen, and I know exactly who took it.
Oh, but.
It was the white kid at the end of the street, Tom. What the fuck are you thinking?
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything.
It was the heroin addict at the other end of the street.
I was going to tell my joke again, although I've told it. I already told it on this show about the kid that's
You need to
half Jewish, half black. But no, it was a great show. I thought she's very articulate. She had a lot to say. She clearly knows what she's talking about. I mean. You guys know what remote viewing is, don't you?
Well, I'm just guessing
when she was talking about that.
Kinda.
The CIA uses it. It's you have people that have more of an intuition than others, but it's actually a technique that a lot of people use.
Well, like a prime example, there's a child that's missing. The first thing that you're going to probably do is all the local like forests or wooded areas,
parks and things. Yeah
like And that's like where they would like first pinpoint. You know,
this is really exciting.
I
but
mean,
I'm
dogs
thinking,
too. They bring the dogs. I mean, look at the case that just recently where a couple killed their 5-year-old boy. Okay, and they had the dogs, and the dogs did not go past their house. They didn't pick up the scent anywhere but at the house. So they automatically knew that boy did not leave that home. You know, it's somewhere in that home. And then, of course, you know, it comes
Concrete
out.
into
The
the
parents were the ones that killed, and they had the body down in the basement.
How are people
know?
so stupid? You kill someone and you bury them in the... I see these things where people put them in the basement and they sheetrock over the body. Right? But then, then 10 years later, they sell the house and they forget about the body that's in the basement. The people that buy the house next, they move the sheetrock and they find like Aunt Irma or whatever, sheetrocked into the wall. You know, it's fucking stupid. People are stupid. Have you noticed that 99% of these crimes that you see, they get solved by a stupid thing they do? And it's like they're really careful about everything they do, but then there's just one little silly thing they do that you don't even think about, and it's that thing that gives the whole thing away.
Well, yeah, and nowadays, man, you can't buy anything because, number one, the purchase is going to be tracked if it's on a card. Secondly, if it's cash, now they make notations of that. Thirdly, there's probably a camera in the place. Fourthly, if you've got an Easy Pass or something like that, they're going to know where your car is. I mean, it's easy to slip up.
Yeah. They got license plate readers in some places. In England,
Oh,
they're everywhere.
yeah.
They can find a shit.
They got everything.
There's pay as a pay service I've used that has the license plate info. And if you type a license plate info, it'll give you a list of everywhere that license plate's been seen in certain states.
Yeah.
But, my favorite one I saw was, I'm not sure if it was called The Chase or something. There was a show, it started in England, but then it was on over here, where they showed these people that had to get to a certain place, and if they got there, they got $500,000, but they had all these ex-FBI people trying to trace them down. Jim, that show?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I saw it.
And there was one thing the guy did that they didn't figure out what he was doing, and it was ingenious. They were looking for emails from him to his friends, right? They were trying to see if he was emailing his friends. But what he was doing is he was logging into his friend's email account and typing the message in the drafts of the email, but not sending it. So it was in the draft folder, and these FBI guys never looked in the draft folder. They just look in the sent or the inbox.
Yeah.
So the people would go in there, read the draft, delete it right out of the draft. There was never any history of it.
Yeah.
It's pretty clever shit, you know?
Yeah.
I've been involved in a lot of investigations back in the day, and some of the shit you see is fucking...
It is clever.
You know?
So clever your wife got up and left the show.
Yeah. I know where she went. So she'll be back.
Man.
We should just talk shit about her. Even though we should just end the
When
show.
she said, sometimes I know, Paul, I know where you're taking me, I was like, how hard is it to guess Paul's taking you to White Castle?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you know, that's a given. I could have told you that.
Let me just do my plug here. This show
do
is
your
brought...
shameless plug.
Yeah, this show is brought to you by the show at Bill's Barbecue Shack in Bayville, New Jersey. Next Saturday, May 11th, 8 p.m. We got some great comics on there. And you guys, it's the fourth show. It's sold out every single time. You can get your tickets at jerseyshorecomedy.com. It's $25 at the door or $20 online. 2-item minimum. No kids admitted. So that's that.
Who are the great comics?
Well, we were supposed to have Bob Levy, but he canceled. But we're gonna have him in probably July at this point.
Okay.
But we have Anthony Ennis, who is you know well.
Yeah.
Yeah, your friend in the soccer environment.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
He's
got
funny.
Tattoos. He's scary.
Yeah. He's funny. And Shay Farrell, who is also on Hodge's show.
Yeah.
He's a great host.
Funny guy.
He's a good host. And I'm going to tell you the name of the headliner. And you can check this guy out on YouTube. He's been on Gotham Live on Access TV.
Cool.
And he has a great clip on there you can check out called The Racists. It's about people that are racist, but it's like very, very, very clever.
Ah, sounds like you.
Yeah.
And his name is John Moses.
Cool.
And he's very, very funny guy. The clips I saw of him are very,
John
very funny.
Moses. Why does that name sound familiar?
Because he divided the Red Sea. You're thinking of someone else.
No, you know what I was thinking of the comedian. Or
you
the
performing, Paul?
I was going to this time. I did perform last time, but I probably won't now because I wanted to do the show with Levy.
I gotcha.
You know, but I mean, what I do is I do look at the lists of the people that buy tickets, and I see how many people have been to a previous show, and what show they've been to. So like last show, there was 3 people that had been to shows before, you know. Mm-hmm. And my stock material, there's only so, you know, if I do some of the same stuff, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
3 people, it doesn't matter, yeah.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about 3 people. But if, 25 people came to the show last time, then I'm not going to have anything on that's the same. But, yeah, it should be good.
Well, yeah,
it should be good.
It should be another great show.
Yeah, we have a record for the number of interested people on Facebook. It's been going up every month, the number of interests. The high was 91. And we're at 110.
So
for this
Denise is in charge for the next guest. That's awesome.
Well, she's in charge for the next guest. But I don't think we should do that shit right away. The same kind of thing. I think it should be something different, don't
Paul
you?
needs the attention.
No, I'm just saying. Fine, do it next week. Actually, no, next week I might be. Next couple of weeks I might not even be doing the show. So
we found out once a month.
What's going on?
Well, next week I'm trying.
Running away.
Levy's doing a spot at Catch a Rising Star Friday and Saturday, which is what he blew our show up for.
Man.
But I told him I want a spot on Friday because I've always wanted to do that club. So he said he'll see if he can get me a spot.
Boy, that's a
big deal. That's a big deal to get on that one.
I played the one in L.A. a long time ago.
Isn't that a big deal, that place?
Oh God, it's a big. And I played it like on a Monday or Tuesday. It was a big.
So the 2 weeks after that, I have shows. So there won't be a show for 3 weeks. If I'm off next week, there won't be a show for 3 weeks.
Could you leave for 3 weeks?
Fuck you.
I'll pay you.
I'm gonna let me just get some of my fucking plugs in. Hold on.
I want to talk about something. I want to plug something.
Oh, you can plug something after me. So my upcoming shows are as follows.
Nobody cares.
So hopefully May 10th I'm gonna do Catch, but I don't know if that's gonna happen. So we won't bother worrying about that. May 11th we have the Bayville show right here in Bayville, New Jersey, 8 p.m. at Bill's Barbecue Shack. May 17th, the next Friday, I have a comedy showcase in Camden, Delaware. Must be a fucking drive. Then on the 24th, I have a show in Cranberry, New Jersey. 25th, I'm in Levittown at
Governors.
I got 2 shows at Governors. I went from nothing to 2 shows at Governors. So I got
how I knew that was Governors for Levittown, huh?
Yeah. So I got one. On 25th, I got a show at Governors. Mike Keegan and friends. 29th, I got a show with Eric Branstein, who is one of the guys who did my show 2 months ago at the Greenwich Village Comedy Club. On the 31st, I have a show in Oakdale, New York, which is fucking nearly in the Hamptons. June 15th, I'm in Oak Ridge, New Jersey. June 21st, I'm back at Governors. June 25th, I'm at the UG. I don't know if it's UG or UG. I'm not really sure which one it is. But it's the UG Comedy Show again, and that's in New York City. And then on the 29th, I have a show at the City Streets Cafe in East Windsor. So I have 10 shows coming up. So,
awesome.
And hopefully more. Hopefully I get paid for some of these. That'd be great. Most of these
excellent.
I get paid for. So.
Denise got something to plug.
Yes, Denise is going to plug herself into a light socket and kill us.
Well, why do you have to be such an asshole?
All right, babe.
Like, seriously.
That's not nice.
Why
We haven't called each other names this whole show, and you're just going to ruin it now.
Well, because you had to ruin it
I just
by
need to
saying
plug your
something
finger in a light
nasty.
socket.
Yeah, that's not nice.
It's called comedy.
That's not. You're not funny.
All
that's stupidity.
Let me go back to the 10 comedy gigs I just plugged. So I guess.
Okay. So telling your wife to go like stick whatever in a fucking socket or whatever, that's okay. That's funny.
Yes.
To me, that's like wishful thinking.
What were you gonna plug, Denise?
No, I kind of like have a few projects that I have been working on.
AIDS.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? One more time, and guess what? You're not going to have teeth to do your comedy show. Okay? You're going to be doing them in Redneck City. All right? Because that's the only place you're going to fit
motherfuckers,
in. That's the only place you're going to fit in. Keep it up. And you don't want to spend money? You're going to be spending a lot of money on your teeth like Rich Voss.
Here's my new joke. I don't know if my wife's getting old, but every time I don't know if my wife's getting old. I just wrote this yesterday. I don't know if my wife's getting old, but every time I go down on her afterwards, I'm hungry for Arby's.
The fuck does that mean? What does that mean? That's the most stupidest thing
Everybody
I've ever
gets that joke. It means that you're
roast
down.
Beef?
Your downstairs looks like a ham sandwich or a roast beef sandwich.
Whatever, Paul.
No.
So you
Tom?
got some projects?
Yeah, Tom's like not even getting involved. What's your project, babe?
I could fix that joke, but not right now.
Just tell.
What were
just
your
do
projects?
Please tell your projects.
All right. Well, no, I have been working on fundraising. We have a local family in our town whose husband has prostate cancer, stage 4. And I know this family personally, and I am kind of like, I just can't sit back and not do anything. So I have been trying to think of some ideas, and I want to do a lot of fundraising. And there is on my Lacey Locals page, if you just scroll through it, you will find a link that the wife had posted on her husband's behalf. They are, because of medical bills and insurance companies not paying anything, and
Or taking a long time to pay.
well, no, not only that, but like her husband has to have a certain shot,
Right.
and the shot alone is like $1,000
Yeah.
out of pocket.
Yeah.
You know, so they've been financially like hitting it hard. You know, and the poor guy with the cancer had to go back to work. You know, because they need the money. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, he's hoping, you know,
He needed
to go.
the money.
That's not funny, Paul. Like, seriously, I hope and I pray that you never have cancer.
That was Andrew
or
Dice
you
Clay
have
bad
nothing.
impression.
Because you know what? You're going to take all your laughter and stuff like that you do on somebody else's
That was
behalf.
an
It's gonna come
Andrew
back on
Dice
you.
Clay joke. You
Yeah,
never
well,
heard
you know
that?
what? Andrew Dice Clay is an
What was,
ass, so
what
are
was
you.
it, Tom? Little Blow Peep.
Whatever.
Blue Peep. She needed the money.
Yeah.
Alright, whatever. Ha ha ha. Like right now, you had your comedy and stuff like that. This,
Little boy
this
blue.
to me,
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
this to me is something serious, and it's something that I do. So like, I want people who are out there. If you've ever had anybody who's had a loved one who's had cancer, you know, and knows what it was like. I mean, this family could really use a little bit of help. So if you could just like go on my page onto Lacey Locals and look for a post that has to do with, you know, a fundraiser. By first name is Marianne. I'd appreciate it if you could just like give a little something and all. But in the meantime, too, you know, I don't only do this just for like friends. Like I've been helping my community for about 5-6 years now, and
I just
a
got
lot of
approved for
times
my Australian travel visa. Just got approved. I got a 1-year travel visa for Australia. Just came through. Just saying. Literally
okay. And why would you go and do that?
Because we're going to Australia in November. That's it. I told you we're going. And I've been.
Now, isn't that funny? Did you hear the word fucking he? He got approved.
You don't need to get approved.
Okay.
I had special circumstances.
Why? You're an American citizen.
No.
Why do you have to
I
have
had special
circumstances? What? You're retarded and you need a special
yes,
seat?
That's what it is. Yes, you got it. Yeah, you got it.
Like, hello. Like, isn't this wonderful? The
You need a different-
communication.
You need a different.
between husband and wife that does not exist here.
You get
Okay?
a visa instantly. I have to apply because of citizenships and different things. Okay, and I've been waiting. So, and it just literally.
Maybe
just
if I'm lucky, they'll take you down under. How about that? Can I apply for a down under visa?
Isn't that what it is?
Can I make it happen? Visa? Can I then call Ginette and ask her when's a bad day for Paul to fly?
I'm
and
surprised.
book your ticket that day,
I've been
and
going-
I'll go a day later? How about that?
I have been waiting for this to come through.
I've been waiting for you to leave for a long time, too, but I'm still waiting.
It's valid until 4th of May, 2020. And I can go as many times as I want. Not that I'm going to go more than once. But.
You know what? Maybe there's something over there that you're just waiting to get at.
I want to see it.
So
I got a
why
whole
don't
trip
you
planned.
just go?
Tom, I got a whole...
And
I
I'll
already
take
got
my
the-
vacation in
No,
New
we're
Jersey.
doing it together. I already got the fucking...
Who says I want to go anywhere with you?
All right.
Don't you think I deserve to be asked? Don't you think that maybe I'm got commitments here? Like, hello, I have a job.
November is
number
enough
two, I
time.
also watch my grandson.
November is enough time to fucking figure it out.
Yeah, see, control.
No, it's
Control.
no. That's you go into Tom. Will you
No, it's
explain to
control.
Denise November what season in Australia November is?
It's the summer. I'm
no,
not
it's the
dumb.
spring. It's perfect.
Whatever. I'm not dumb.
You don't want to
But
go.
it's also I have a blood disorder, and it's also a 23-hour flight.
It's
that
what, you
technically, I
it's-
don't think my
you
doctors
get,
would approve.
No, you get up and you walk around. That's how it works.
Right.
And also, it stops. I'm hoping it's going to stop in Tokyo, so we get to see Tokyo for a fucking day. That's my plan.
I would go just to see the toilet water go around in a different direction.
You've never been to Australia, right, Tom?
Yes, I have.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Is it good? It's good, right?
And New Zealand.
Yeah,
Right,
my plan
next
is 3 cities in Australia and then Christchurch, New Zealand.
Yeah, I would cancel the New Zealand trip at all costs. Yeah.
Just to see it for a day or two?
Anything you
Literally
can see in
2
New
or
Zealand.
3 nights is all I was looking at.
Yeah, I wouldn't go there.
I just want
Well,
to.
you guys
know what
might
it is? I'm
enjoy it.
there.
I know somebody you can take
The
to
way
New
I look at
Zealand.
it is I'm there, so why not spend the extra 2 days and see something? You know what I mean?
I'd rather go to Tasmania than I would New Zealand. New Zealand is just like, imagine all the most boring, worst places in Australia, and that's New Zealand.
It says if
Tasmania, at least, is exotic a little bit.
It says if I'm from Afghanistan, Congo, Kenya, Nigeria, Pakistan, Papua New Guinea, Somalia, Indonesia, Niger, or Mozambique, I have
Or
to take.
Lakota Harbor.
Yeah, Lanoka Harbor. I have to get a polio vaccination.
Yep.
I'm sure I had a polio
You know,
vaccination when I
actually,
was a
they're
kid.
saying now that the measles vaccination, if you were born after a certain period, before a certain period, like you have to, and I fit right in that criteria. So it's like telling me that I should go and get like another measles shot.
Yep.
Now. So, something to look.
I'm
in.
shocked that shit came through. That's awesome. I thought they were gonna give me a hard time about that shit. So, whatever.
Maybe they just want you out of the country.
No, this is Australian government, not American. It's the Australian government giving you a visa.
Oh.
So
Why would you need that when you're an American?
everybody
Doesn't it
needs
always go just one
no.
way? Well, I've never had to when I've flown to another country. Had to get a visa
no,
from them.
Australia has visas for everybody.
No, that's visas are bullshit. No, wait a second. Visas are for people who have something going on over in the other thing,
No.
like these fucking weddings
Tom,
and all
no,
this shit.
no.
I've
England
never heard where you need a visa.
England has a visa waiver plan, okay, which is what you use when you go to England. It's called a visa waiver because you're from a certain country that they don't.
Yes.
Like not a risk.
Well,
okay?
then that would mean me too.
They do not have visa waivers in Australia. Everybody has to have a visa of some type. Visitors have to have a visitor's visa.
Why don't I have a visa?
Because I'm doing that next. Because I can get yours in a day. This thing's been fucking me around for fucking weeks. So
I think there's something more.
I'll explain it to you later. But there's this,
I think there's something more going
people
on.
from
My
certain
gut instinct is saying
no
that he's
different
been plotting.
countries have different rules. Let's just put it that way.
You've been plotting.
No, I haven't. I literally just got it. I just got the email right now. I'm just telling you.
Yeah,
Are you?
and you've had this going on
dual
for a
citizen?
while.
Yeah, that dual citizen is part of the problem.
Yeah, that would be part of it.
Yeah. So
Plus,
yeah.
the Australians aren't crazy about the British.
No. Well, what's ironic though is when I was doing the visa, I was reading if you want to move there, it's actually pretty easy if you're British, because
Well, if you're
we still kind of own a bit of it.
Do you have a
Pumpy.
New Zealand girlfriend over there? I don't know about.
If I had a girlfriend, why would I want you to go with me? Use your fucking head for 10 seconds of your life.
Keep it up, and you're not gonna have. Keep it.
So Lacey,
I got a
Locals to
$20
help out
Amazon
this
gift card for going to the dentist. That's pretty cool. Just saying. Lacey Locals, what? Denise, finish your plug-in so we can get out of here. I got live PD to watch.
You know, it's. You know what? Go blank yourself.
Well, I'm telling you to plug your stuff.
It's amazing how he could talk about his shit, and I'm not sitting there telling him like, "Hurry up and get the."
All right, so if you want to stay for an hour, I'll go watch live PD, and you talk to do a show.
I don't talk like that to you when you're plugging your stuff. So why would you do that to me? That's very rude.
All right, go ahead. Plugs, Denise. Fine.
I want an apology.
Sorry you didn't do your plugs.
No,
Tom.
I want an apology. I'm sorry I treated you the way I just did.
Tom, I'm sorry I treated you the way I did.
All right, you know what? You know what?
I didn't.
You can sleep on the pull-out bed downstairs.
I know. Denise was ramping up to all the places people could help donate money to this family in need.
You need to repost that at the top of your page so that people can find it easily instead of saying, "Oh, it's one of the 900 posts on my page."
I will put it as a pinned post if I don't.
Why don't you do it right now then, so that people who are listening to the show can actually go do it?
You know,
it's a live show. I'm just saying, it's a live show.
I'm not stupid.
That's what I hate. Like when I do the barbecue show and they don't finalize the date for the next show. It just irritates me because I want to go on stage at the end of the show and say, here's the next fucking show. And I already updated the website. You can go right now and use this promo code and you can buy tickets right now. I hate it when I have to say to them, the show tickets will be there in 2 days. Because you lose the sale.
Okay, I pinned it to the top. So when you go to my Lacey Locals page, so when you go to it, look for the pinned post.
Should I put it on my page?
And that will. You at one time did share it. I suggest you share it again.
Oh, okay. If my life depends on it.
But as I was saying, I have been thinking of other projects that I want to do because I don't only help just one person. I like helping the community. So I am thinking on building. Like, you know, like how every town has...
You have your phone number?
Every town...
Wait a second.
Every town has, like, a food bank and all. I personally would like to start my own. Like, I get a lot of donations.
On our porch, that's all I'm saying.
I get a lot of donations, and that's just it. Like, my garage is filled with donations. You know, I have, like, donations that get dropped off in my porch. And when I can't find homes for these things... You know, they either sit there or I end up calling like another organization to come pick it up because I don't want the things to go to waste. I mean, if somebody one time, like when somebody throws something to me, I go through it because, you know, I'm not going to pass on something that's ripped, dirty.
Do you get a lot of calls from this page?
And all? You know what? I don't know.
It's funny, boy, because, you know what? I'm looking at the fucking number on here and it says 681-6622. That's really interesting that it says that, and I'm thinking you're not getting many calls because that number is not your number.
I don't know who put that number on there. Unless it's a typo.
You got a typo.
Why would I even put my cell phone number?
I don't know. I just looked at Lacey Locals. Maybe I can see it because I'm not even your friend. She unfriended me, Tom, so don't feel bad. Yeah, so it's on the. Everyone can see it. It has your number right there.
I don't want people to know I'm associated with him.
Yeah, all right.
It's bad enough I do this. But anyway, see, here he goes. So. Paul, seriously, you're not funny. But anyway, as I was saying, so like I was thinking on like getting a storage unit, putting everything in, you know, being able to take more donations and having it like on my free time.
You should go to the storage place and tell them what you're doing and give you a storage unit for free.
You know, they can make an appointment or I could sit there and I can say, you know, okay, I'm going to be here on Wednesday from like 1 to 3 or whatever. If you need anything, you know, please PM me. You know, and let me know, and I will meet you down there. And have them be able to just, like, go in and go through clothes and take what they need. And never have it on a basis where they have to pay something, you know. But to promote paying it forward. If you say, you know, you need soap, you need laundry detergent, you need this and that, and then you find yourself that you've got things sitting on at home that, you know, you're not using and it could help another, pay it forward, you know. It would be like a give and take and all. Not trying to make money off of people. Never trying to make money off of people. I want people and I want to try to promote, you know, loving thy neighbor, you know, treating others as you would want to. Because you know what? This world has got enough of ugly in it. you know? So I am kind of like, I don't know, I always get inspired. And when, you know, things either happen or I just get like this feeling, you know, and things don't go right, it makes me fight harder, you know, for what I believe in. So that's kind of like where my head has been out lately. And I've kind of put feelers, you know, out into it. I also like, you know, Paul and I, we own LaceyTownship.com. It's just sitting there. I own LaceyLocals.com.
You do?
And yeah, and you know, like I kind of want like people to be involved. So I kind of like want maybe people to write articles, you know, something that maybe they have something going on, or maybe there's a charity, or maybe there's, you know, something that they want to promote. And I want, you know, to help them get the word out again without having to lay out money. Okay, especially if it's going to help another. Like everybody always has their hands out for money, I am one believer that what you put out into the universe will come back to you, you know? And that's why I have always done what I do, not looking for praise, keeping a low profile, and just helping.
Yes.
Helping people, you know?
It says here you have to be tuberculosis free. How do they know that?
You have to be tested for it. It's
no,
a
it doesn't
test.
say nothing about a test.
Yes, well, usually that's how you have to have documentation that you're not a carrier of tuberculosis.
It just says you must not have tuberculosis, condition of visa. But it doesn't say you need anything to prove it.
Paul, how would you prove it? You have to have medical documentation. It might not say in it, but that's anybody could sit there then and go walking through immigration or whatever and say, oh no, I don't have tuberculosis.
Can't they check that?
Prove it.
They can check
probably
that
with doctor's records.
No, I think tuberculosis is an X-ray, right, Tom? Is that what I'm thinking?
That's like chest X-ray.
Is that the one that has
Can
X-ray?
be,
yeah.
But it doesn't have to be. They can also test tuberculosis
with an injection at all, and at a
skin
site,
test.
and if it's a skin
she's
test.
actually right.
If it shows positive, you will have a reaction to it. If it doesn't,
So
you're
what
in
I'm
the
saying
clear.
is they can randomly do that when you go, right?
They inject
sometimes
a small,
takes a day or so.
like amount of fluid into the skin in your arm, and then they got to return to have, you know, the reaction to that looked at within 2 or 3 days.
So how would they test you at the airport?
And I know that for a fact because my mother is a carrier of it.
Well,
she can't go to Australia then.
As well as my niece.
You're not supposed to have
Tested
Ebola either when you come into a country, but people have done it, you know. I mean,
when I did my green card, I had to get a fucking HIV test and like 8 other things. It's like a big list of shit.
Yeah.
And it was funny because
they didn't test you for assholitis.
They give you nice one. They give you the test results in a sealed envelope, and you have to carry that to immigration. And if you open it, if it's not sealed, then it's not valid.
Tampered with. Yeah. Well, you got it approved, so it doesn't matter now. Off you go.
I'm gonna do Denise's one next. Denise's one is easy.
Yeah, Denise will get hers, and off you go.
Definitely.
Be a wonderful trip.
Yep.
A little shrimp on the barbie.
Just like Italy.
Italy was awesome.
Yeah, for you.
You didn't like it?
It was hot as well. No.
Don't
sorry. Get me
the
wrong.
fucking country. I apologize that the sun was out. That was my fault.
No, that was.
We're gonna go to the fucking South Pole next,
if
where they get sun for 4 hours a day if you're lucky.
It wasn't even a year out of my knee surgery.
So you're saying you rather wouldn't have gone to Italy? Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying was
Yeah,
it was in the dead of heat. I just recently
Dead of heat?
The dead of the the heat.
What?
Whatever, Paul. Paul, one more time and I'm gonna freaking knock your teeth out.
But what does
right?
dead of heat
Yeah,
mean?
but now you've lost a lot of weight.
hot
He's
as
talking
hell
to
in
you.
here.
We're gonna be done in a minute.
Lost a lot of weight. You're feeling good, and to be springtime there, and it's a spectacularly
Well, that's what I'm saying.
beautiful
Yeah,
country.
I'm in better condition than I was back then because I had put on weight. I only was out not even a year of my surgeries, in which I was told that it's going to take at least up to 3 years before you're really starting to feel like yourself again.
But now you're on your way, and It's spectacularly beautiful over there. There's a million things to do. The cities are gorgeous. The outback's gorgeous. They got
Just got to find the right
animals,
person to go
plant
with.
life and things there they don't have anywhere else in the world. And it's a wonderful country. It really, really is. Just don't eat the Vegemite and you'll be fine.
So this is the deal. Oh, shut up, dog.
He loves that stuff.
So this is the deal I got. Shut up! Hey. So I got 3 nights in Auckland, right?
Auckland is in New Zealand.
Yes, so I got 3 nights
Sin,
in
shut
Auckland.
up.
Okay.
Yeah.
That with hotel.
Sin, get over here.
Then I've got
Oh,
Sin,
Jesus.
come over here.
15,
Dog's
16,
barking
17.
'cause my son-in-law just
Four
came home.
nights. Hold on, mate. Let me say this again. Hold on.
You better behave.
No, I got 4 nights in Auckland, right?
Yeah.
4 nights in Sydney.
That's awesome.
4 nights in Melbourne.
That's awesome.
4 nights in Perth.
That's awesome.
Right? Flights included, hotels included. How much money do you think? I've been quoted
for both of you or per person.
Per person. I've been quoted nearly $10,000.
Per person, $1,500.
That's not. No, it's not that cheap. $1,500. Okay. The flight alone.
$2,100.
$2,700.
That's still a steal because that's 16 days. That's a little over. That's about 100.
I'll pay you the money. You'll fucking beat me $200 a week.
That's $160 a day. That's pretty cheap, and that's flight included.
Yeah, and all the flights between everything. The flights to Australia on their own are about $1,200.
Yeah, that's an amazing deal. It really is. It's amazing. So, yeah.
So the flight to New Zealand is 38 hours, but there's a stopover. I want to know where the stopover is.
But Auckland, man.
Where do you think Auckland's better than Christchurch or not?
It's better than Christchurch by a long shot, but it's still New Zealand.
I want to just do it one time. I want to go see the volcano. You know what I mean?
Can I throw you in it?
No? Oh, it's Qatar is where the stopover is.
Oh, dude.
I'm paying for the fancy.
That's the hot place.
Yeah, that place is like a fucking sauna. Qatar.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. And by the way, terrorist friendly. Nah, they're not bad. That's where the next World Cup is going to be.
It says here it's the only 5-star airport in the world. It's rated 5 stars by everybody.
Oh, they got money coming out the wazoo in Qatar. Yeah. It's like one of the per capita highest incomes in.
Is Qatar a country or is Qatar the city?
Yeah, it's a country. Okay. It's where the next World Cup is going to happen.
Yeah, so you get 8 hours there, so we get to go shopping in Qatar. See, that'll change Denise. I don't want to go. Denise, there's 8 hours of shopping in Qatar. All right, I'm going.
With no money that he'd be giving me.
Is Qatar, we said that Qatar is expensive though, right? Or not?
No, I just said they have one of the highest per capita incomes anywhere. I don't know if it's expensive there.
So
it's really, really, advanced, beautiful place. Like I said, they're having the next World Cup there. They don't, it's nice. It's just hot.
Sorry.
Yeah, but November shouldn't be too bad.
Yeah, I think November's better than like February, right?
No, November's better than like June or July.
Because that's like the middle of winter.
Yeah, no. They're talking. They were the World Cup's usually in June.
Oh, okay.
And they are talking about having it in December in Qatar because of the weather in June. So I have to imagine that the June weather is extremely hot. But anyway, I gotta get going here.
Yeah, we're good too.
Yeah, it's late. I have to babysit my grandson, and I have work tomorrow too.
When are you gonna babysit your grandson?
Tomorrow morning for at least an hour or two.
All right, Tom. Any plugs for
and then I have work.
Your bullshit.
Oh, let's see. I'm on Dysfunctional Podcast every Friday at 8 p.m. that they have a show, and then The Tom Gulley Show, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on the Chop Block TV network and on my Facebook page. And we're also on the Good Talk Radio network. And we're adding another network soon.
Cool.
So, yeehaw.
Anything, Denise, you want to plug?
No, just
She
continue to
already
pay it forward.
All right.
She
Thank you,
gave
everybody,
me
for
a
checking out
nice-
Dysfunctional Podcast. Tom, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you. And thank to Ginette Matacia, psychic, reachginette.com.
Yes, thank you so much, Ginette.
Reachginette.com. That's GINETTE, 571-358-1444. I put it in the chat room. If Paul wants to, he can pin that.
Yep.
It's down at the bottom, but she was awesome.
Yes. Definitely. Check this out, though. For this Australia flight, you leave Thursday night, you arrive Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Because
that's
of just a day and like a
international
day and a half.
dateline.
Fucking the dateline. You know that,
Yeah.
right, babe? You lose
Well-
a day when you go, but you get it back when you come back.
Yeah, like when it's like right now it's 9 a.m. tomorrow
Right.
in Australia. Well, wait. You guys, it's 11. Okay, so it's about almost to be noon tomorrow in Australia.
Right. How cool would it be if you you don't want to buy Christmas gifts, that you fly to Australia on December 24th and you get there December 26th? Wouldn't that be cool?
That's an old George Carlin joke.
Oh, there is a joke there somewhere?
Well, he does the thing about not being able to receive communion because he's Catholic.
Right.
He's like, what if you're on a ship at sea and the chaplain goes into a coma? And then you cross the international date line. Is it still a sin? You know, and that's the whole thing about it. Same thing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
All right, cool.
You guys have
Thank
a
you.
good weekend,
Say
man.
goodbye, Denise.
You too. Have
All
a
right.
good one.
Peace out, everybody.
All
Thanks,
right.
Tom. Later, coach.
Bye-bye.